Chapter 361, Public Indignation. Wu Qianqian too wasn't aware of the exact details. Yun Xiaodao and Zhu Rong told her to quickly bring Chen Shang. Chen Shang followed Wu Qianqian to the King Martial courtyard inside where only Yun Xiaodao and the group were present. Wu Kaming and Ji Yudongchen were both not here. Inside a room, with a pale complexion, Yao Haisheng was lying on the bed. His breath was very weak, apparently, he had suffered a very serious injury. Witnessing such an appearance of Yao Haisheng, Chen Shang immediately took out a piece of hell spirit grass and fed it inside Yao Haisheng's mouth. Although Yao Haisheng was an alchemist, in the same level, he could not be considered as a weak opponent. Such serious injuries were only possible if he had been besieged by many people or beaten by a very strong person till he was injured. "Did you report it to elders?" Chen Shang asked. "We did, they just gave us a few dans. But those elders dared not to take action against them." Yun Xiaodao looked completely furious. Zhu Rong sneered, who would have thought that our extreme martial sect's elders would actually be so good for nothing. They had been so scared by those few guys who were just in the 7th level of the true martial realm that they would not even dare to fart in front of them. Fuck, those guys are making me angry. It's alright that they didn't even dare to fart, but when we were planning on going they even stopped us. In the King Martial courtyard, Hao Dongqing and Yao Haisheng were elders for the young disciples. However, they socialized with Yun Xiaodao and the group and were very familiar with each other. Lian Mingdong said, Uncle Hao was blamed and was taken away by the elders. If it was Elder Wu, he would absolutely not do such a thing. Wu Kaming had taken Xiao Chou to recuperate. They didn't even know where he was. As for Ji Yudongchen, he was discussing some important things with Xiao Ziliang. There was no need to mention about Elder Dan, God knows where she was. Chen Shang too had not seen her for a very long while. "Tell me exactly what happened." Chen Shang slightly took a breath. He knew that the people who had injured Yao Haisheng were extraordinary, or else the extreme martial sect's elders would not be so scared of them. "Uncle Yao is awake, you can ask him," Shu Weilong said. Yao Haisheng felt his body recovering at an astonishing speed. When he noticed that Chen Shang was here, he immediately knew that Chen Shang must have given him the hell spirit grass. "Teacher," Yao Haisheng gratefully shouted, "tell me who beat you up, and what happened?" Chen Shang asked. His complexion was very calm. But those who were familiar with him all knew that he was very furious inside. It is also the time when he was reckless, in this state he would even dare to go against the world. Yao Haisheng heaved a long sigh. It was a group of 7 people dressed in golden robes. They were extremely strong and extremely arrogant as well. "In the trading square, I found a spirit herb that looked like a black stone. Black wood, a spirit herb used for refining high-grade profound level Dan. It is very precious," Chen Shang said. With regards to spirit herbs, his knowledge was vast. The trading square was a place where people came from various places and set their stalls. Many liked to go this place. Sometimes if one's luck is good, one could find a very precious thing just by spending a very meager sum. No doubt, Yao Haisheng found the black wood. "Right, my black wood could at least sell for 30 million crystal stones. The teacher should know of its value." Chen Shang nodded his head. The black wood was a very strange wood. It could be used as a spirit herb or be used to refine an equipment that could calm one's mind. Furthermore, when refining a high-grade profound level Dan, as long as a rice grain size of black wood was added to the furnace, it would add an effect of promoting one's divine sense. It was incredibly precious. When I arrived at the entrance of the extreme marital sect after buying the black wood, I was attacked by 7 gold robe-wearing individuals. In just a short span of time, they had beaten me to the point where I suffered some serious injuries. By the time some of the elders, and Xiaodao and the group arrived, I was already unconscious. They in order to rob the black wood did this in front of so many extreme martial sect disciples. They directly snatched my storage pouch. Yao Haisheng was extremely furious. He tightly clenched the futon. Yun Xiaodao, Zhu Rong, and the others were all angry as well. "Boss, let's go and beat those few bastards who injured Uncle Yao. Otherwise, for what did, I became powerful." Blue veins had already appeared on Lei Shonglin's forehead as he angrily said. "Elder brother Chen, let's go. No matter how big the background of those guys is, I'm with you. Tit for tat, we must rob back Uncle Yao's stuff." Yun Xiaodao took out a sword and tightly clasped its hilt. Usually, Zhu Rong was timid, but now he too didn't show any weakness. "Not only we must rob it back, we must also pummel them to the ground." "I will also go," Wu Qianqian said. Usually, she would socialize with them, she too had feelings, she could not just sit back and watch. Xu Weilong, Lei Zhang, Lian Mingdong, all of them nodded their head in succession. If at that time we were all here, we could have saved Uncle Yao, but we were stopped by a few elders. Xu Weilong's voice was incomparably cold, this was also the reason why everyone was so furious. Okay, let's go. Chen Shang faintly smiled, his eyes flashed with a sliver of ruthlessness. Yao Haisheng was very moved. He did not want Chen Shang and the group to take any risks because those people had mysterious and powerful backgrounds. Or else why would several elders of extreme martial sect be afraid of them? However, no matter what Yao Haisheng said, Chen Shang and the group did not pay any attention to him, left the room and closed the door. As they arrived at the courtyard, they noticed an old man was bringing Xiao Chou over. Elder Wu, Chen Shang in his heart was elated. If Xiao Chou, this little monster, was added to their group, he would naturally be not afraid of anything. He said he needed to find the dean to discuss some important matter, so he made this old man bring him here. Xiao Chou looked at Chen Shang and respectfully said. Now he would even prostrate before Chen Shang in admiration. After the old man left, Chen Shang said in a serious tone, "Little rascal, your senior brother is lying inside that room. His things had been stolen by some guys and they had also seriously injured him. What do you think, how should we deal with them?" Xiao Chou was definitely not an idiot. Witnessing the complexion of everyone behind Chen Shang, he knew that Chen Shang was about to have a big fight. And Xiao Chou very much like fighting, for sure he was going to support this approach. What about it? Whatever they did to my senior brother, we should do the same. Teacher, count me in. I have almost recovered from my injuries. Xiao Chou's face was filled with ruthlessness. Only now did Chen Shang notice that Xiao Chou was absent of his towering braid, and instead had become completely bald. What happened to your hair? Did Elder Wu shave you? Chen Shang caressed his tiny bald head. He said my braid was too arrogant, he made me shaved it off. Xiao Chou pouted his lips. Apparently, it was done against his wish. Chen Shang secretly despised Wu Kaming, that old baldy, he unexpectedly removed that cute towering braid. Noticing Xiao Chou's arrival, Yun Xiaodao and the group were even more excited. He made them even more courageous. However, they also knew that they would not get to have their share of fighting, maybe, Xiao Chou would settle everything alone. Let's go. Chen Shang with everyone walked out of the King Martial courtyard. After Yao Haisheng was injured, Zhu Rong immediately started investigating where they lived and found out their room of residence in the city. When they were just about to walk out of the extreme martial sect's entrance, suddenly 4 old men flew over. They were all extreme martial sect's elder. Chen Shang immediately knew these must be the elder who had stopped Yun Xiaodao and the group. You cannot annoy those people. An elder coldly said. Even if Chen Shang was here, he didn't place him in the eyes. Chapter 362, Master and Disciples Together. Master and Disciples Together. 1930th chapter. Chen Shang was very furious in his heart. If not for these elders stopping the group at that time, perhaps Yao Haisheng might not have had his things stolen. It was quite clear that these elders connived with the robbers of Yao Haisheng, or else why would Yao Haisheng be seriously injured? Chen Shang found these elders unfamiliar, he had never seen them before. Looking at their arrogant appearances, Chen Shang found it even more strange. After all, these elders were only in the 9th level of true martial realm. Much to his surprise, they didn't even place him and Xiao Chou in their eyes. Chen Shang was in the 7th level of the true martial realm. If he used all his strength coupled with the Azure Dragon slaughtering devil blade, he had not an ounce of fear facing any 9th level true martial realm martial artist. I want to know why you didn't save Yao Haisheng. Not only did you not save him, you also had the gall to block his friends who were going to save him. What were you thinking? As an elder, you actually watched your own sect's disciple getting robbed by others, moreover even allowed him to be seriously injured. Chen Shang clenched his fists. The true qi in his body secretly started surging. He was furious. Because they are the disciples of the Sacred Light Temple. Have you ever heard of the Sacred Light Temple? We absolutely cannot offend this kind of powerful influence, that's why. Bullshit. If it was the dean, those guys who had beaten Yao Haisheng would have already been annihilated. No matter how strong they are, since they dared to rob my extreme martial sect's disciple in front of the extreme martial sect, my extreme martial sect should not hesitate to make them pay for this. You 4 are useless scoundrels who are nothing more than lackeys of that motherfucking Sacred Light Temple. You do not deserve to be a member of the extreme martial sect. You are fucking elders. I spit. Chen Shang angrily cursed. At this moment, Yun Xiaodao and the group felt very happy, while Xiao Chou was also preparing to fight. Let's go. I'm ashamed to see my extreme martial sect has such cowardly elders. Chen Shang coldly shouted as he continued walking towards the entrance. At this time Su Meiyao said, if I remember it correctly, the Sacred Light Temple seems to be one of the powerful influence in the Eastern Sea. I think their mainland was called Sacred Light Continent. It is 10 times bigger than the Chenwu mainland. Rumor has it that during the previous great battle of 3 realms there was an influence who fought zealously to make the demons and devils retreat, that's why it was renamed as Sacred Light Temple. I don't remember what it used to be called. Whatever. They beat my apprentice, I am going to make them pay. Chen Shang ignored the other stuff and threw it at the back of his mind. Bai Yu continued, since the Sacred Light Temple guys are here, it is highly likely that they must be behind the isolation of the extreme martial sect. Didn't your teacher say that it must be the doing of those bastards? The Sacred Light religion is quite powerful and prosperous in the Eastern Sea. It is impossible for them to have no ambitions. Perhaps, the Sacred Light religion had already subjugated the other mainlands. However, it is not so easy to grab the Chenwu mainland. Chen Zhang's eyebrows interlocked with each other as a frown appeared on his forehead. He knew that there was sure to be a conspiracy, but how could he have known that it was actually the Sacred Light religion who was behind all of this? Chen Shang, in the younger generation you are indeed very strong, but you should not be too arrogant. You don't even dare to listen to our orders, but also dared to curse us. An elder appeared in front of Chen Shang. Fucking lackey, get the fuck out of my way. No matter how powerful the other's influence is, you should not watch your own disciples get robbed in front of your own sect. You fucking scoundrel, you even stopped the other guys who were planning to save him. You wanted to let them rob Yao Haisheng. So what, if I have cursed you? From the looks of it, you cannot wait to wag your tail in front of the Sacred Light Temple. Chen Shang once again started cursing. Stop right there, an elder angrily shouted as a wilted old arm grabbed towards Chen Shang. Chen Shang angrily roared. As his anger erupted, his slaughter chi covered the sky and the earth. An azure light flashed. Suddenly, in his hand appeared the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade and at lightning speed cut down the extended arm of that old man. Xiao Chou, attack, cripple these bastards. Chen Shang furiously said. Slaughter chi soared from his entire body. All the anger he had been suppressing in his head broke out in advance. When he thought of these elders intentionally letting Yao Haisheng get robbed which led him into getting seriously injured, the anger in his heart erupted like the countless volcano. His anger had reached the utmost limit. Upon hearing Chen Zhang's order, the awakened power inside his body also burst out. The Herculean blood inside his body was seething, he could feel Chen Zhang's anger. The 4 elders hadn't expected that Chen Shang would actually be so bold, he even dared to resist them. They didn't know that Chen Zhang's teacher was Huang Jintian, or how many Nirvana realm martial artists he had killed alone, or Ji Yu Dongchen and Wu Kaming had to call Chen Shang as the martial uncle, or else they would also not look down upon Chen Shang. Both of Chen Shang's eyes turned blood red as if 2 groups of blood red flames were burning. The azure dragon slaughtering devil blade in his hand burst out with an even more violent aura which made the 4 elders shudder. After the elder's arm was cut off by Chen Shang, he first felt an excruciating pain, then he was shocked. He saw Chen Shang wave that giant blade which was overflowing with tyrannical aura towards him. Chen Shang had used an adequate strength, he infused the azure dragon slaughtering devil blade with the 5 elements universe true chi. Using that huge blade body, he ruthlessly slapped that elder's cheek. Half of the extreme martial sect fiercely quaked from the impact when Chen Zhang's power erupted. After the elder's cheek was thrashed by Chen Zhang's blade with a thunderbolt-like momentum, his whole body flew out and crashed into a thick wall far away. Whether he was dead or alive remained unknown. Xiao Chou also pounced the moment when Chen Shang waved his blade. Followed by a childlike roar as a frightening power erupted from his body like a storm. From the subsequent energy waves emanating from Xiao Chou, the bricks around him were smashed to pieces. His fist heavily punched an elder's face. Immediately after he punched with his pair of fists, in an instant, he had punched out a few dozen times that pounded upon the elder's body which gave rise to a crackling-like noise. Apparently, his bones had been broken. After Xiao Chou had his strength awakened, he had stepped into the 7th level of the true martial realm. If a common 9th level true martial realm had not made any preparation, he would definitely be thrashed and seriously injured. In just an instant, Xiao Chou had punched a few dozen times and broke the elder's bones. The elder spew out blood from injuries. You. Another elder was horrified. They had just returned to the extreme martial sect from their travels in the overseas. As they had lived in the extreme martial sect for a long time, they were made elders. Because of their old age, they usually could not do anything. Afterwards, they went to the Sacred Light Continent. Because they socialized with the Sacred Light Temple's disciples for too long, they slowly came to dislike the extreme martial sect. They blamed their inability to break through to the extreme state on the extreme marital sect. They thought as they are elders, the extreme martial sect would not blame them. Not to mention, they very much dreaded the Sacred Light Temple, and besides there was the hate they had for the extreme martial sect. That's why such a scenario of Yao Haisheng getting seriously injured took place. Chen Shang and Xiao Chou acted at the same time, and even without any barrier. As a result, they had caused quite a bit of movement. The entire extreme martial sect had been shaken by the burst of power. In just a few seconds, Chen Shang and Xiao Chou had thrashed the two elders. This kind of strength not only made the remaining two elders feel horrified, even Yun Xiaodao and the group were similarly shocked. It was not the first time that they had witnessed Chen Shang ravage some powerful guy, but every time they would similarly feel shocked. Not to mention Xiao Chou was accompanying him. This kind of shocking scene made their hearts shudder. Chapter 363, Sacred Light Temple. Sacred Light Temple. 2030th chapter, Fucking Ingrates. Chen Shang sneered as he started walking towards the two elders. Just as they were within their reach, a white brilliance emerged from Xiao Chou's body. His body was like an arrow of light that charged at the two elders. As his pair of fists sent a punch each, two white light flashed out from his tiny fists and transformed into two huge rings of white light and landed upon two elders. Whether it was the speed or the strength, Xiao Chou had surprised Chen Shang. He thought that the current Xiao Chou was very powerful, and even if he used all his power, perhaps it would be difficult for him to defeat Xiao Chou again. Xiao Chou's punches were truly powerful. After he punched out, not only did the two elders flew out, the subsequent momentum from the fist tore the ground away, thereby creating two gullies. The four elders were in the 9th level of the true martial realm, yet Chen Shang and Xiao Chou had so easily dealt with them. Witnessing their strength, Zhu Rong and the group were secretly shocked. They just wanted to take action. The four elders were already lying on the ground. What happened? It was Ji Yu Dongchen's voice. Although he was inside the extreme martial mysterious realm, he still paid attention to the outside situations. Let alone, such a large continuous disturbance. Ji Yu Dongchen, Wu Keiming, and Xiao Ziliang simultaneously arrived in front of Chen Shang and the group and looked at the havoc Chen Shang and Xiao Chou caused in their wake. Did you fight here? Ji Yu Dongchen said with a frown. He had noticed that the ground was littered with bloodstains, an arm was even lying there. As for the four elders, they had already flown away somewhere from Chen Shang and Xiao Chou's strike. Wu Keiming looked around before he suddenly disappeared. In just a few seconds, he had thrown four old men with a painful look on the ground. Ji Yu Dongchen looked at the four elders lying on the ground and once again swept a glance at Chen Shang along with Yun Xiaodao and the group. He could not understand why would Chen Shang clashed with these four elders, and from the looks of it, Chen Shang was furious. He for the very first time had seen Chen Shang so angry. Humph! Chen Shang looked at the four old men moaning on the ground and angrily snorted. Then he laid it all one by one about Yao Haisheng to Ji Yu Dongchen and the others. Ji Yu Dongchen, Wu Keiming, and Xiao Ziliang's complexion turned solemn, while Ji Yu Dongchen tightly clenched his fists. With eyes full of murderous aura he looked at the four elders on the ground. Seeing that Ji Yu Dongchen was so angry, the four elders could not help but shudder. I have never maltreated you and even made you elders. I also felt regret that you were not able to break through. But you should be well aware that the fault lies in you. I made you all elders, even let you receive the generous benefits of an elder without doing anything. Was it still not enough? Why did you treat my extreme martial sect's disciple like this? Ji Yu Dongchen coldly said. Dean, we were only thinking about the bigger picture, and did not want to provoke the Sacred Light Temple. Bullshit. I think you just wanted to use this little action to please the Sacred Light Temple so that you can enter the Sacred Light Temple. You don't want to provoke the Sacred Light Temple, then what about my extreme martial sect's disciple? Why should he get robbed without any reason, or be seriously injured? What about the dignity of my extreme martial sect? The more Ji Yu Dongchen spoke, the more he got angry. His voice was flooding in anger, his facial features were distorted from anger. Furthermore, you let him get robbed as well as get injured by other sect disciples in front of the extreme martial sect's entrance. Get the fuck out! Ji Dongchen madly roared and waved his arm, smacking all 4 elders away as they disappeared into the horizon. In accordance with the rules of the extreme martial sect, they need to be executed on the spot. But thinking of the contribution that they had made to the extreme martial sect, I gave them the chance to turn over a new leaf and only expelled them out of extreme martial sect. Even if Ji Dongchen got angry, it won't do him any good. But he felt that the entire extreme martial sect had been slapped on its face. Little Ji, do you really want to go against the Sacred Light Temple? Xiao Ziliang asked. Chen Shang now realized that Ji Dongchen and Wu Keiming seemed to be aware of the conspiracy of the Sacred Light Temple. Chen Shang sneered, Sacred Light Temple wants to unify the Eastern Sea, will you sit back and watch them do this? I know that under their rule we will be nothing more than dogs running here and there on their beck and call. Listening to Chen Shang, Ji Dongchen, Wu Keiming and Xiao Ziliang were all speechless. They couldn't fathom how Chen Shang knew all this. They also thought that Chen Shang was right. They have long been aware of the Sacred Light Temple's ambition. Who told you? Ji Dongchen could not help but ask. Forbidden area, Chen Shang snorted. Huang Jintian never told him this, it was all based on the analysis of Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu as well as some speculation from his conversation with Lu Menger. From Ji Dongchen's and Xiao Ziliang's complexion, Chen Shang knew that their guesses were not far off from the truth. What did that old madman say? Ji Dongchen using the divine sense asked Chen Shang. He told me to tell you that you don't need to be afraid of any forces, you should act accordingly with your faith. Chen Shang immediately replied. Huang Jintian had indeed said so. Ji Dongchen glanced at Xiao Ziliang and nodded his head at Xiao Ziliang, then said, Elder Wu, we will leave with these little rascals and look for those Sacred Light Temple guys. In case things took a turn for worse we will act. Xiao Ziliang harumphed and said, I'm not going to follow you into this mad endeavor. I don't have some old madman behind me. I currently don't want to have any clashes with the Sacred Light Temple. Xiao Ziliang after finished speaking, left. His free immortal sea was still very young and could not afford to toss things around unlike the extreme martial sect who had concealed a large part of its strength. Let's go. I presume that you knew where those 7 bastards are at. We will show them what we are made of and let them know that our extreme martial sect is nothing that could be trifled with. Ji Dongchen clenched his fists and proudly said. Chen Shang and the group were incredibly surprised because Ji Dongchen had not only not stopped them, he was also planning to join them. The excitement they felt were rushing to their heads. As far as the Sacred Light Temple was concerned, Yun Xiaodao and the group were all oblivious to it. However, they had heard Chen Shang say that the Sacred Light Temple wanted to unify some Eastern Sea, from this they could guess that it was anything far from good. They also didn't ask too much. Although they were quite intimate with Ji Dongchen and Wu Keiming, they had always held these 2 tycoons in awe. The Sacred Light Temple is one of the forces of the Sacred Light Continent. The entire Sacred Light Continent is under their control. And the Sacred Light Continent is 10 times bigger than Archenwu mainland, all the resources there are in the Sacred Light Temple's grasp. Whether it is dans or equipment, all are being controlled by the Sacred Light Temple. The cultivation resources are sold at exorbitant prices, because of which they are raking in plenty of crystal stones and in possession of abundant resources. Ji Dongchen along the way informed Chen Shang and the group about the Sacred Light Continent. Many of the martial artists of the Sacred Light Continent are going through a tremendous amount of suffering which cannot be expressed in words, even the civilians are not spared. And if somebody is regarded highly by the Sacred Light Temple, he was in luck. Truly powerful martial artists have all been captured by the Sacred Light Temple. If someone disagrees with them, the Sacred Light Temple will use various ways to kill the martial artist or expel them out of the Sacred Light mainland. When Chen Shang and the group heard this, they could not help but shimmer in anger. The Sacred Light Temple was simply squeezing countless people dry to let a handful of people obtain all the benefits. They were cultivating at someone else's expense. If so, then all the resources would be grabbed by them and they could foster many powerful martial artists. And then use these very martial artists to suppress the others who wanted to revolt. And those tycoons of the Sacred Light Temple were getting the most benefit. Chapter 364, Blood for Blood. Blood for Blood. Hi guys. So I was not able to finish 30 chapters last month. Anyway, from now on we will follow each week with a schedule of 6 chapters. While I try to finish the sponsored chapters queue slowly this month. And please check out my Patreon page. 1/6th chapter of this week. Enjoy. If they succumb to the Sacred Light Temple, then maybe the entire Chenwu mainland too would similarly follow their footsteps. The Sacred Light Temple's people in power always felt it was not enough. They were worried that their status would be threatened, so, on one hand, they developed the Sacred Light Temple's strength, while on the other they infiltrated many mainlands overseas and took control of them. Since a long time ago, it had been their ambition. I just did not think that they will so soon reign in other mainlands of the Eastern Sea. If so, then isn't it very hard on the residents of the Sacred Light Continent? Will it keep on going? Wu Qianqian asked. No, this is not going to always be so. Someday, their sun will set. Any influence similar to Devil Path sect, sooner or later, will have to perish. This time they had prevented many powerful mainlands from coming and participating in the Hero Assembly. It's clear that they want us to feel isolated, hoping we would seek refuge with them. They don't want to have any forces in the entire Eastern Sea to threaten their position. Wu Kaming said. Ji Yudongchen smiled. The Sacred Light Temple was established far later than the extreme martial sect, although, in the fight with the demons and devils 100,000 years ago, they have earned a substantial amount of meritorious service. This time the Sacred Light Temple is unlike before. Chen Shang calmed down upon noticing the smile on Ji Yudongchen's face. He realized that Ji Yudongchen must still have some ways of escape, especially when it came to the secret strength of the extreme martial sect, which when he asked Huang Jintian about, he was only told that it was a secret which can only be revealed to the extreme martial sect's dean. Chen Shang and the group arrived in front of a house. Xiao Chou immediately went forward and kicked the door, thereby smashing the entire door into pieces. The mongrels of Sacred Light Temple, get the fuck out and kowtow to admit your mistake. As Chen Shang shouted, a large mass of azure true chi spewed out from his mouth which completely wrecked whatever remained of the gate. This was a bare-naked provocation. When the pedestrians on the street saw Chen Shang creating trouble, they immediately went far away, because the last time, in the Fragrance City, when Chen Shang fought with Xiao Chou, he had completely wrecked the entire square. The memories of that scene still haunted them. No one wanted to get affected again. Ji Yudongchen and Wu Kaming glanced at each other before suddenly disappearing from the scene. They jumped far away and watched everything unfold. If they were here, the Sacred Light Temple would definitely run away. They wanted to publicly teach a lesson to the Sacred Light Temple which would be rendered impossible due to their presence. That was why they wanted Chen Shang and the group to act. Young martial uncle, you are allowed to destroy the house, but just the house. The rest is up to you. When Ji Yudongchen left, he transmitted the message to Chen Shang using divine sense. From the inside, 7 people clothed in a gorgeous golden dress walked out. Each and every one of them kept a straight face while their eyes were filled with an ominous gleam. They gave off the impression of a murderer. They are nothing, just in 6th and 7th level of the true martial realm. Long Shui spoke in disdain. One of the Sacred Light Temple's disciples shouted in anger, "Who are you? Don't you know that you will have to pay with your life for doing something like this?" Just as the man finished speaking, Chen Shang gave a glance at Xiao Chou. Xiao Chou understood what Chen Shang wanted him to do. He immediately swooped over. Just in half a blink of an eye, Xiao Chou's ruthless punch landed upon that man's abdomen. The power behind the punch was extremely strong. As its power invaded that man's body, it violently raged inside, thereby destroying everything within. The man immediately spewed a mouthful of blood. The dress covering his body was suddenly shredded to pieces as blood, followed by Xiao Chou's strength, gushed out from the pores of his body. The man flew out and crashed into a pillar as he lost his conscience. It could be said that Xiao Chou went lightly, or else the entire house would have been wrecked. He just crippled the Sacred Light Temple's disciple and nothing else. Before this, for the thing you have robbed in front of the extreme martial sects in trance, you must pay it with your blood. Chen Shang had his hand behind his back. Xiao Chou was rather strong. There was already no need for him to get involved. He was very pleased to have such an apprentice. The remaining 6 men were even more furious. Much to their surprise, the extreme martial sect's disciples actually dared to move their hands on them. Chen Shang, Xiao Chou, a Sacred Light Temple's disciples spoke coldly. The fame of these 2 gave rise to much discussion. For sure, they would recognize them. At this point, the 6 golden-robed men had been surrounded by Yun Xiaodao and the group. They could not let them escape. Even though they knew they won't have the need to take action, more than that they wanted to teach the disciples of the Sacred Light Temple a lesson. Correct, it's us. You have robbed my apprentice and even injured him. I now came to have his revenge as well as take back the thing which you have stolen while crippling all of you. Xiao Chou, attack! Once Chen Shang gave the signal, Xiao Chou once again attacked. Xiao Chou was in the 7th level of the true martial realm, his strength was not far from any 9th level true martial realm martial artist. Although he looked like a child, he was in no way lacking in any power or speed. Just as Xiao Chou attacked, Chen Zhang's body trembled slightly. Everyone only felt a burst of dense water attributed true qi spreading around them as the Sacred Light Temple's disciples suddenly had their body wrapped around by a few water vines, tightly wrapped around their body, making it difficult for them to move. If your extreme martial sect is going to act like this, you are looking for your own destruction. Our Sacred Light Temple will not let you off. As far as the extreme martial sect, in the eyes of our Sacred Light Temple, you are nothing more than an ant. You're definitely going to regret. A disciple was greatly startled. He involuntarily shouted in a voice full of fear. Chen Shang smacked his hand, which was followed by a deafening noise. The Sacred Light Temple's disciple let out a blood-curdling scream as he spewed teeth along with blood. You want to remain stubborn? Chen Shang once again smacked a palm. These Sacred Light Temple's disciple weren't Xiao Chou. Facing Chen Zhang's shocking heaven palm, they were nothing more than tofu. As Chen Shang slapped him twice, the Sacred Light Temple's disciple lost all his teeth, but he was not dead. While Xiao Chou, also like Chen Shang, slapped 2 other disciples. Everybody attack, pummel them to the ground. You don't need to act leniently to guys like these. Do they think they are unmatched in the world? Don't they look down upon my extreme martial sect? I am not going to make them pay twice for what they have done. I'm going to completely crush them, letting them know that the dignity of my extreme martial sect is inviolable. Chen Zhang's voice was filled with endless slaughter qi that even infected Yun Xiaodao and the others. Their punches and kicks filled with their entire strength hailed upon those 6 Sacred Light Temple's disciples. Chen Shang exactly wanted to have this kind of effect. Since the Sacred Light Temple's disciples robbed in broad daylight at the site of extreme martial sect, it was nothing more than an insult for the extreme martial sect. Now, Chen Shang wanted to make them pay everything back and also let the Sacred Light Temple feel an utmost shame. In a short while, the 6 Sacred Light Temple's disciples were heavily injured from everyone's punches and kicks. As Chen Shang withdrew the water vine, all 6 keeled over. Ruthlessly trample them, just don't kill them. While speaking, Chen Shang fiercely stepped on the Sacred Light Temple's disciples. In doing so, he had undoubtedly declared war with the Sacred Light Temple on behalf of the entire extreme martial sect. This was also supported by Jiyu Dongchen. Zhu Rong had already picked up the storage equipment on them. After they found Yao Haisheng's items, they passed it on to Chen Shang. Chen Shang didn't need the rest of the stuff as he was not lacking in any of these now. Stop! An angry voice abruptly came as an oppressive pressure like a mountain, which was pressing on their shoulder, also fell upon Chen Shang and the group. It made them feel extremely unbearable. Continue. As Jiyu Dongchen's calm voice appeared, Chen Shang and the group had their pressure relieved. They continued to trample upon those 6 Sacred Light Temple's disciples. Chapter 365, The Sacred Light Temple Pope. The Sacred Light Temple Pope. Hi guys, remember to check out my Patreon page. 26th chapter of this week. Jiyu Dongchen, Wu Keiming, both appeared behind Chen Shang and the group, while at the same time, a middle-aged man garbed in a golden robe appeared before Chen Shang and the group. Chen Shang and the group stopped. The 6 Sacred Light Temple's disciples had already been beaten black and blue, they were left completely unrecognizable. Although they weren't dead, it would not be wrong to say that they were better off dead. The middle-aged man of the Sacred Light Temple was extremely strong. Although appearance-wise he looked plain, he had an oppressive aura on him. At this moment, his entire face was distorted from anger as he ferociously glared at Jiyu Dongchen. Jiyu Dongchen, you're just one extreme martial sect. I'll make you regret this. The golden-robed middle-aged man spoke while grimacing his teeth in anger. Qin Zejin, I think you already know that it was your Sacred Light Temple's disciples who were in the wrong first, we were just taking revenge, that's all. It was perfectly justified, Jiyu Dongchen sneered. Chen Shang and the group went behind Jiyu Dongchen and Wu Keiming. If Chen Shang was not wrong, then this golden-robed middle-aged man was the Pope of the Sacred Light Temple, who was not any weaker than Jiyu Dongchen. Qin Zejin looked at the disciples who were on the ground moaning and crying for help, he frowned. He waved his hand and a golden palm burst out and blasted all 6 disciples that were on the ground, not even a dreg remained of them. Disgraceful things. After Qin Zejin angrily shouted, he looked at Jiyu Dongchen, do you still don't know your own situation? Witnessing Qin Zejin's vicious act against the disciples of his own sect, Chen Shang and the group secretly felt goosebumps exploding all over their skin. Now, they didn't have an ounce of goodwill left for the sacred light temple. But of course, moreover, I also know that it was your doing. Ji Dongshan's eyes were filled with murderous intention. He tightly clenched his fists. Apparently, he was extremely furious regarding this matter. Qin Zejin pursed his lips as a ruthless smile appeared on his face. Ji Dongshan, when the hero assembly is going to convene, as long as the sects of your Qinwu mainland completely surrender to the sacred light temple, you will still have a way out. Otherwise, you yourself are going to defend this place and deal with those demons and devils. The sacred light temple wanted to unify the Eastern Sea under them. Now it seemed that only the Qinwu mainland was left. If the Qinwu mainland was reined in by the sacred light temple, perhaps the Qinwu mainland would be no different than the sacred light continent. It would also turn into a gloomy world. Just wait and watch. Your sacred light temple is just a frog in the well. In the mortal martial realm, it's just not your sacred light temple who is the strongest. It appeared that Ji Dongshan had no iota of worry, which made Chen Shang uncertain. He knew that Ji Dongshan had some tricks in the bag, but the sacred light temple had currently unified all the major forces of the Eastern Sea. The Qinwu mainland, in front of the sacred light temple, was just an insignificant character. Rest assured, sooner or later I will rule the entire mortal martial world. Qin Zejin madly laughed before he turned into a golden light and disappeared from the scene. Inside the house, there was still a sacred light temple disciple remaining. Chen Shang and the group also didn't bother to pay any attention to him and followed Ji Dongshan and Wu Kaming back to the extreme martial sect. Chen Shang followed everyone to the King Martial Courtyard and paid a visit to Yao Haisheng before returning back to the extreme Dan King Courtyard. He continued on with his usual routine, took care of the herbs in his small herbal garden. There was still some time before the hero assembly. As for the exact date, that still remained undecided. Most probably it depended on Ji Dongshan's decision. Chen Shang too was in anticipation for that day because it was the very day on which the extreme martial sect was going to unveil its true strength. That guy called Qin Zejin had crossed 8 tribulations, but why does he have such a narrow view? He actually wants to rule the mortal world. Does he not wish to ascend to the heavenly realm? Chen Shang said while irrigating the white jade lotus bud. It's easy for you to say. Even if it is Ji Dongshan, they might have to stay in the mortal world for a very long time. He will wait until he has the adequate strength, dealt with the matters of extreme martial sect, handed over the mantle of Dean, and only then would he attract the 9th tribulation. And after crossing it, he would immediately ascend. This period requires a very long time. You can even say that it could even take him 10 millennia. Su Meiyao explained. After reaching the Nirvana realm, the life of a martial artist was very long, but it was not eternal. If they could not have a breakthrough at an opportune moment, their body would slowly grow old. Wu Kaming was the perfect example of this. That's why in the same Nirvana realm, there were some who looked young and some who looked old. If he could rule the entire mortal world, he will have all the resources of the entire mortal world in his grasp, which will allow him to have a better chance in crossing the 9th tribulation. Many martial artists who had crossed the 6th, 7th and the 8th tribulation, all think like this. That's why they all chose to be obedient to Qin Zejin. This way, they can easily obtain plenty of resources. The Nirvana realm martial artists are the strongest martial artists in the mortal world. As long as they so wish, they could deter the civilians of a mainland. But this is a nightmare for the rest of the people of the mortal world. By doing so they would reduce the number of martial artists. Bai Yu said. The mortal world was vast and so was its population. If the denizens, as well as the entire resources, were controlled by just a handful of people, then this small group could obtain plenty of herbs, ores, crystal stones and whatnot. Many of the cultivation resources would be out of reach for ordinary martial artists. This way, they would have a greater chance to survive their Nirvana tribulation. Chen Shang was currently in the process of refining many hundred beasts Dan. At present, he was not only raising one little greedy dragon, he was also raising a chatterbox, the little tiger. The little white tiger would keep on shouting every day, non-stop. Chen Shang after thinking had realized that it was encouraged by Long Shuiyi. However, the more they ate, the faster they grew. Chen Shang would curse them a few times, but he still refined many hundred beasts Dan happily and gave it to them. Xiao Chou officially entering the extreme martial sect had shaken the entire Qinwu mainland. After all, he was from the Herculean family, towering above the rest in strength. But what was simply unbelievable for the most was that Xiao Chou was Chen Zhang's apprentice. Although Chen Shang was young, his strength was enough to become a teacher, so many still found it acceptable. Chen Shang was now feeling a great deal of pressure, because Xiao Chou had made Chen Shang his target. Furthermore, it was becoming very hard for him to raise his strength. If one day he, the teacher, was defeated by his student, he would become a laughingstock. Chen Shang was not a freak like the Herculean family, that's why he had to put in more effort than Xiao Chou. Otherwise, he would be left behind. Now the guests from the other mainlands were quietly waiting for the hero assembly to convene. However, what made Chen Shang feel surprised was that, during this period, the guests from other mainlands still continued to flow. What's the matter? Chen Shang came to know from Lu Menjie that Leng Yulan and Shui Shenxian were both in the vicinity of the extreme martial sect. He would run over to them and play with the two daily. Because the hero assembly was about to start, they continued to remain here. Lu Menjie had already been aware of the proceedings with the Sacred Light Temple. She was surprised by how boldly Ji Yudongchen dealt with it. That guy called Qin Zhejian might not have the confidence to make the extreme martial sect surrender. Lu Menjie said. Teacher, what will our divine weapon Heavenly Empire do? Shui Shenxian asked in a worried tone. After she came to know the situation of Sacred Light Continent, she was furious. She did not want the Chenwu mainland to be the same. Chapter 366, Unstable Situation. Unstable Situation. Edited by Beansprout. Hi guys, sorry for the late chapter, one more chapter might be coming today. And don't forget to check my Patreon page. Enjoy. Don't worry, we will not yield. In any case, the Chenwu mainland is a prominent continent in the Eastern Sea. We have a long history of martial arts. I'm sure Ji Yudongchen will have some way to deal with this. As for the other sects, I don't know. Lu Menjie smilingly said while caressing Shui Shenxian's hair. Leng Yulan held her giant sword firmly. Elder brother, you are really sly. When you were going to teach a lesson to those Sacred Light Temple guys, why did you not call me? Chen Shang forcefully smiled and said, Yulan, where have I had the time to think of so much? In the future, if there is an opportunity, I will take you. The white-hair beauty was one violent girl. If not for her having challenged too many people and satisfied her thirst, she would still be pestering Chen Shang to spar with her. At present, occasionally, she would ask Chen Shang to call Xiao Chou. But how could Chen Shang dare to do so? Xiao Chou likes to fight too. Not to forget his identity as a Herculean family member. He was someone with a one-track mind, he simply doesn't know any compassion for females. Chen Shang was afraid that Leng Yulan would be seriously injured by him. Leng Yulan harumphed and said, if my Icewind Valley Dean surrenders to the Sacred Light Temple, I will break away from the Icewind Valley. I won't be a part of some spineless sect. Chen Shang was secretly laughing because the Dean of Icewind Valley was Lu Menjie, who was just right here, it was just that she was currently not aware of this fact. While speaking, Leng Yulan dragged Shui Shenxian to the backyard for sparring. Deep within her veins, the blood of a general was flowing. What made Chen Shang a little difficult to understand was that Shui Shenxian would not actually feel tired, she would still happily accompany Leng Yulan. Sister Menjie, why hasn't that seductress Hua Shangyu come yet? Chen Shang, using his divine sense, asked Lu Menjie as he sat down at the window, looking down at the courtyard as the two compared their respective palm techniques. I have already given herbs to her, and she says she will help me refine it. As for where she is, I have no idea. Lu Menjie replied. These days, Chen Shang had always been wanting to be intimate with her, yet she didn't dare to do so. After all, Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulan were both here. If they were found out, it would cause a big problem. Does she know that those herbs are mine? Chen Shang asked. She knows, and at that time she was incredibly surprised, furthermore, she was also jealous. Lu Menjie smiled proudly because Chen Shang gave them to her and not Hua Shangyu. Hua Shangyu was a formidable alchemist. According to Ji Yudongchen, there are only a few alchemists of her caliber in the Eastern Seas. Moreover, a majority of them are quite old, so, Hua Shangyu has quite a bit reputation in the Eastern Seas. Even in the entire mortal world, her reputation is not insignificant. As for Lu Menjie, she is only a little famous in the Eastern Seas. A high-level alchemist is better than refiner. Because the refiners could only provide external help, as for alchemists they could help one in their cultivation. Furthermore, they provide a great boost for Nirvana realm martial artists when they have to cross the Nirvana tribulation. For instance, even Lu Menjie had to ask Hua Shangyu to help her refine dance. Sister Menjie, that seductress Hua Shangyu wanted to become my maidservant. And when I refused her, she looked unhappy. Why is it so? Asked Chen Shang. For this, he had always been doubtful. Who knows? Only recently I came to know that she is Danxiang Taoyuan's dean. She has always been very mysterious, maybe she really likes you. A little jealousy could be detected in Lu Menjie's tone. Realizing that she was a little jealous, Chen Shang felt secretly proud. A lascivious smile appeared on his face. Sister Menjie, goodbye. While speaking, his hand reached out to her charming, voluptuous ass and rubbed it before, like a wind, rushing his way downstairs. Lu Menjie could only helplessly stomp in shame. This little rascal is getting increasingly lewd. Lu Menjie lightly spat, then continued observing Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulin's fight. Once Chen Shang returned to the extreme martial sect, an elder immediately notified him to gather at the extreme martial mysterious realm. Every person inside was waiting for him. Although he was neither an elder nor extremely powerful, he had frequently saved extreme martial sect's honor. Now, he was considered as one of the important figures of the extreme martial sect. Not to mention his talent, he could certainly be groomed for the next candidate for dean's position. Almost everyone is here. Everybody's strength is above the 9th level of the true martial realm, and all of you has also been with the extreme martial sect for many years. Said Ji Yu Dongchen. The elder courtyard only had 40 or so people. All of them had strength above the 9th level of the true martial realm. The weakest of the bunch was still an extreme state martial artist, except for Chen Shang. Tomorrow the hero assembly is going to be held. There may be many unexpected surprises tomorrow. And if we assume the worst scenario, maybe the entire extreme martial sect will be in a state of complete chaos. After you leave, make sure the disciples of various martial courtyards have prepared themselves. Ji Yu Dongchen's complexion turned grim. Everyone could not help but wonder. You have to pay attention to 3 points. First, tomorrow, if some disciples want to leave the extreme martial sect, you are not allowed to stop them. You also don't need to say anything, just let them go. Second, if tomorrow's situation is very dire for the extreme martial sect, please remain calm. You cannot be in a mess. Third, when Ji Yu Dongchen spoke till here, he paused, with those pair of eagle eyes, scanned everyone. If some fighting took place, until and unless I give any order, no one, and I mean no one, is allowed to take any action. Furthermore, you must evacuate the disciples to the extreme martial mysterious realm. As for the others, just let them be. Chen Shang was taken aback. From Ji Yu Dongchen's words, it appeared that the Sacred Light Temple was definitely going to wreck tomorrow's hero assembly. After all, the Sacred Light Temple had almost unified the Eastern Seas. In other words, plenty of Nirvana realm martial artists is at the beck and call of the Sacred Light Temple, which for the extreme martial sect was downright unfavorable. More importantly, the extreme martial sect was just one sect. No matter how strong it will certainly be difficult to resist the entire Eastern Seas. Let me add one more thing. After the chief of various martial courtyard returns, immediately convene the extreme martial sect disciples. Make all the disciples below the 10th level of the mortal martial realm leave the extreme martial sect. Just make up any reason, force them to leave. As for the 10th level mortal martial realm disciples, create a small team of them and ask them to wait at the entrance of the extreme martial mysterious realm. The martial artists below the extreme state are responsible for managing these 10th level mortal martial realm disciples. At the same time, they too will be waiting at the entrance of the extreme martial mysterious realm. Wu Kaming said. At this point, an old man asked, are just these many of us going to be participating in the hero assembly? At present, these people from the elder courtyard could be regarded as the strongest of the extreme martial sect. That's right, the place where the hero assembly is going to be held is limited. If everyone from the extreme martial sect went to attend the hero assembly, and if by chance, many friends came to attend later, we will not have any space for them. Was someone going to be coming later? Chen Shang was secretly surprised. He knew that martial artists from many powerful mainlands in Eastern Seas had not yet arrived. If the rest of them came tomorrow, that would make the hero assembly one grand event where all the powerful experts of Eastern Seas were gathered. However, what worried Chen Shang was that all the various forces of the Eastern Seas had colluded with the Sacred Light Temple. If all of them allied together to launch an attack at the extreme martial sect, then how is the extreme martial sect going to deal with this? Chen Shang was unable to imagine that Ji Yu Dongchen would have any trick left. After all, at that time, they would be facing a large crowd of fearsome Nirvana realm martial artists. And if all of them decided to launch an attack, the entire Chenwu mainland might very well be finished. No one had thought of how pressing the time would be. If said to retreat, then retreat. However, this was all Ji Dongchen's arrangement. Naturally, he must have his plan. Chen Shang also didn't know where the hero assembly was going to be held. Obviously, it was not going to be inside the extreme martial sect, or else Ji Dongchen would not have said that space was limited. Chapter 367, Imminent Crisis. Imminent Crisis. Hi guys. I know it came out late, but I'm working on the other two. They might be delayed but they will be released by tomorrow. In the meantime enjoy. The next couple of chapter is the best, full of comedy. On other note, please check out my Patreon page. 4/6 chapter of this week. After the meeting was adjourned, everyone rushed their way out because they were on a tight schedule. Although some of them were elders, they were still responsible for managing various things of the martial courtyard. Only Chen Shang was left here. After everyone had gone far away, Ji Dongchen quickly asked, "Young martial uncle, have you seen the junior sister? I have already told her that it's best for her not to train in seclusion this time, yet there is still no sign of her." Chen Shang shook his head. "I have also been looking for her, but it is as if she is not in the extreme Dan King courtyard." Ji Dongchen and Wu Kaming were looking for Elder Dan too, yet she could not be found. It was more difficult for Chen Shang to find her. She was a fearsome alchemist and so was her strength. She was one of the tycoons of extreme martial sect. If she was absent during the hero assembly, it would surely make the extreme martial sect look weak. The last time Chen Shang had seen Elder Dan was during the Danxiang Taoyuan Grand Meeting. At that time, Elder Dan had handed him the 5 elements true elemental Dan herbs. After that day, he had not seen her again. Although Elder Dan often appeared and disappeared mysteriously, she had still not turned up at such a critical situation, which made Ji Dongchen and the others extremely anxious. What in the bloody hell is going to happen tomorrow? Is it very dangerous? Should I still attend? Chen Shang asked. If it was so dangerous to the point that he might lose his life, he obviously would not go. Ji Dongchen pondered for a moment, then said, "It is hard to say. Whether to go or not go, it is all up to you. Anyway, whether you go or not, it is not going to change anything. However, if you plan to go, you might get the chance to see a very rare scene. As for the danger, I cannot say with certainty." Chen Shang shrugged his shoulder. "I am going to ask the old madman. You go look for that girl." Ji Dongchen immediately grabbed Chen Shang, smiled and said, "Young martial uncle, you really have guts. You are actually going to visit him so soon." "Initially, I was planning to go, but now that young martial uncle intends to, then you must help me ask him, what does he think about current situation?" Chen Shang swore a while before immediately taking his leave. He didn't expect that Ji Dongchen would actually be so afraid of Huang Jintian. Now after acquainting with his teacher, he felt that the torment from that unbearable torture had reduced a little. Inside the pit, Huang Jintian was examining a huge cow. He had no idea where his teacher had procured it, also he had also taken out a unique seasoning. Baking the meat gave a very delicious aroma. It was also one of those things which made this, hell, a little better for Chen Shang. "Don't talk, let's put it off till we are finished eating." Huang Jintian, while observing that cow used his hand, gestured Chen Shang to barbecue the cow using the heavenly sun fire. If the fire beast at the bottom of the netherworld abyss came to know that Chen Shang was using the heavenly sur fire to barbecue meat, it would definitely vomit blood and anger, and not just once. Of course, it was all because of Huang Jintian. This old madman instructed Chen Shang to do. According to him, barbecuing in heavenly sun fire makes the meat relatively tasty. Very soon, the monster cow had been barbecued. Chen Shang and Huang Jintian started a contest to see who could eat more and how quickly. After the meal, Chen Shang lazily leaned against the stone wall. Looking at the warm and gentle yellow aura next to the sparkling pool of water, he suddenly felt that this pit was pretty good. In his vision, it looked even beautiful. "Teacher, Little Featherhead said that he is going to convene the hero assembly tomorrow. From his appearance, it seems the extreme martial sect is about to be finished." Chen Shang said. "Now, he must do what he came to do." Huang Jintian laughed and said, "Little rascal, tomorrow you should also go to the Hero Mountain, it will broaden your vision. And also, no matter what happens tomorrow, you must not blame Little Featherhead and the others." "Why do you say so? Are they going to handle the things very badly?" Chen Shang frowned. He suddenly had a bad feeling. Hey, I can see you are going to face an imminent disaster. At that time you must be careful. Huang Jintian laughed and said. Chen Zhang's pair of eyebrows started twitching. Huang Jintian could predict the future, so he immediately believed Huang Jintian. Teacher, don't joke with me. Chen Shang bitterly smiled and said. I'm not joking with you, you are going to face an imminent disaster. Haha, little rascal, at that time, make sure you don't die. Huang Jintian burst into a maniacal laughter. Chen Shang could not wait to ruthlessly slap him a two. His own apprentice was in mortal danger, yet he was actually laughing so happily. Teacher, what in the hell is going to happen? Is it the entire extreme martial sect who is in mortal danger, or is it just me? Chen Zhang's face revealed an anguished look. It's just you. If you want to know exactly, then you have to check it out during tomorrow's hero assembly. Regarding this matter, although I don't agree, I am particularly not against it. Moreover, it will also be a huge test for you. Huang Jintian laughed and said. Chen Shang dispiritedly sat down on the ground as he vigorously threw a stone in the water. He knew what Huang Jintian was speaking must be definitely true. Little rascal, don't worry. You are my apprentice. Although you are in a great danger, I assure you, I will not let you die. In the future, you will be crazier than this old man. I am certainly looking forward to that day. Huang Jintian burst into laughter. Chen Shang would have liked to ask more questions, but he was eventually kicked out by Huang Jintian. Rubbing his ass which was sore from the kick, he cursed several times while facing the pit before quickly returning to the extreme Dan King courtyard. Much to his surprise, Ji Yu Dongchen was waiting for him at the entrance. Noticing Chen Zhang's arrival, he asked with a smile, young martial uncle, did you ask him? I have asked. According to the old madman, I'm going to be facing imminent disaster. In short, I might be out of luck tomorrow. When mentioning this, Chen Shang, in his heart, felt extremely uncomfortable as if there was a knot in his heart. He also said, no matter what happens, I mustn't blame you. What the hell is going to happen? Chen Shang stared at Ji Yu Dongchen. Why, you will know it tomorrow. Ji Yu Dongchen said while rubbing his hands. Chen Shang scoffed, tomorrow I'm not going to be participating in the hero assembly, I will then see whether or not I will face any disaster. You will, but it will be better for you to go and check it out for yourself. I still have many things to do, I will leave first. Ji Yu Dongchen had a little guilty look in his eyes. After he was done speaking, he immediately left. Chen Shang cursed him a few times. He always felt as if Ji Yu Dongchen was going to be selling him out. Is he planning to tell others about my and Sister Menger's relation? Or the relation with Hua Shangyu? But will it do him any good? Chen Shang was completely uncertain as he entered the herb garden. Master, my father and mother are nearby. It might be better for you to not take me outside, I don't want to return with them together. From the profound beast bag came the timid voice of Little White Tiger. Jun, you don't need to worry. Chen Shang grinned, he too didn't want to lose the Little White Tiger. After all, it was his ace in the hole. Su Meiyao said, little rascal, it might be better for you to clean things up. Who knows what will happen to you tomorrow? Do I have some things to tidy up? Obviously, Chen Shang too had realized that his situation might be dire tomorrow, but he remained very calm. You can shift the entire herb garden inside the ring, it is best to take the whole spirit field. Su Meiyao sounded extremely anxious. Is it possible? Chen Shang asked. The herb garden if placed inside, it would have to be taken care of by the two, moreover, he would also be carrying the herb garden along with him, but this way, he would have no shortage of herbs. Chapter 368. The Hero Mountain. The Hero Mountain. 5/6 chapter of this week. The last one will also be coming after a while. Enjoy, and please do check out my Patreon page. As the Hero Assembly was going to be held tomorrow, the entire extreme martial sect currently has too much on their platter, everyone was extremely busy. Chen Shang looked for Yun Xiaodao in the group, and after having chatted with them for a while, he returned to the extreme Dan King courtyard and moved all the spirit herbs in the herb garden into the invisible ring. Even living beings could be stored inside the mystical ring, and not only that, they could also live inside for a long time as if it was carrying a small mysterious realm. Although it was simple and crude, it was pretty useful. This ring was different from the profound beast bag. Only the spirit beasts could reside within the profound beast bag. The spirit beasts have an ability which allowed them to absorb the spirit chi from the outside world through the profound beast bag's barrier. It was precisely because of this ability that they were able to live inside, and also the reason why Chen Shang could provide plenty of 100 beasts Dan. So, the spirit beasts inside would not die due to lack of air and spirit qi. Chen Shang had once asked Lu Menjie whether she could refine this kind of ring. The answer he received was that it was quite possible. It was only that she would need some very special herbs. During the refining process, she would have to use a lot of profound spirit arrays and at least refine it for a few decades, and only then would she be successful. Lu Menjie was a grand refiner. The profound beast bag was originally given to Hua Shangyu by Lu Menjie, which was subsequently handed to Chen Shang later. In other words, she could refine profound beast bag, which was clear proof that she had the experience in refining high-level storage magical equipment. Where is the Hero Mountain? Why have I never heard of it? Do you know? On one side Chen Shang was busy digging, while on the other he was asking. I have no idea, however, if I have to guess then it must be in the vicinity of the extreme martial sect. Su Meiyao said. There seems to be a mountain filled with a peculiar deathly aura in the vicinity of the extreme martial sect. Although it is overflowing in death qi, it is devoid of yin qi. That place seemed to be full of pure and righteous power of the dead souls. Bai Yuyu said. Chen Shang was dumbfounded for a moment. Perhaps that place is a forbidden land outside the extreme martial sect, yet directly managed by them. Maybe that place is the Hero Mountain. Long Shui said, maybe the heroes who had died during the battle 100,000 years ago are buried in that place. But why are their souls still lingering there? Did they want to resurrect? Old fogies from 100,000 years ago wanting to resurrect. How was that possible? But Chen Shang didn't find it absurd. He found it quite possible because he had seen the resurrected double-headed snake demon in the 100,000 Devil Mountains. If Bai Yuyu's elder sister had not killed him, Ji Yu Dongchen and the others would have been preoccupied with him for quite some time. Chen Shang had irrigated the soil of the herb garden with dragon saliva throughout the year. Over time it turned into the spiritual soil, which was extremely helpful for planting spirit herbs. Chen Shang first started digging the spirit herbs along with its root and placed them inside the ring one by one. Once all the spirit herbs had been dug out, he began digging out the soil. He left everything else to the two beauties to take care of. It was already late into the night when he finished digging the spiritual soil. Chen Shang sat on the roof and looked at the full moon in the sky. He didn't know what was going to happen tomorrow, but if not for his teacher promising him to not let him die, he would not have dared to stay here. He would have long run away. If he wanted to hide, no one could find him. Huang Jintian didn't know he cultivated in Shinto either. In the mortal world, only a few people had heard of Shinto, let alone the kinds of spiritual powers associated with it. The sky had not even turned bright when Ji Yu Dongchen came looking for Chen Shang. They were planning to go to the Hero Mountain so early. At this moment, many of the extreme martial sect disciples had already returned to their home. Only the 10th level mortal martial realm and some true martial realm martial artists still remained. After Ji Yu Dongchen left, the rest of the extreme martial sect disciples would guard the entrance of the extreme martial mysterious realm. Su Meiyao and the others' guesses seemed to be on the mark. Sure enough, the Hero Mountain was a mountain in the vicinity of the extreme martial sect which was prohibited from entering. Along the way, Chen Shang also saw Lu Menjie bringing Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulin on a white jade flying lotus. Ji Yu Dongchen and the others were instead walking. He also saw deans of other mainlands and sects along with their disciples flying towards that mountain nearby. Some of whose faces he could recognize: Lotus Island's Lian Yingxiao, True Martial Sect's Tang Yichao, Free Immortal Sea's Xiao Ziliang, Proud Sword Sect's Yu Zhonglin. What astounded him even more was that all deans of 5 major devil sects were also coming. Yet there was still no sign of Hua Shanyu. She was the strongest of Danxiang Taoyuan. In the Chenwu mainland and even in the eastern seas, she was renowned. Of course, only after her identity was uncovered that she became famous. It seems the guys from 5 major devil sects have no confidence in the demon and devil domain. After those guys invade the human world, they will not even recognize their own kinsmen, let alone the people from human domain. After noticing the deans of 5 major devil sects flying over with their disciples, Ji Yu Dongchen muttered to himself. Rumor has it that the hero assembly of 100,000 years ago was also held at the Hero Mountain, so the people who died in the Great Catastrophe are all buried here. Who knows whether the people from the last Great Catastrophe had survived till now? Wu Kaming sighed with emotions. The ancient people from 100,000 years ago had successfully protected the entire mortal martial world, or else the mortal martial world of now would have been the world of demons and devils. According to Long Shui and the others, after the great battle of three realms was over, the passage which was the connection between a world and the demon and devil world would shut close based on the demon and devil chi inside. If a world invaded by demons and devils had dense demon or devil chi, then finally it would be classified as demon or devil world respectively. Similarly, if the humans attacked the demon and devil world and captured it, then when the passage was closed, it would be included with the human domain. However, this kind of scenario was extremely rare. Usually, the world from human domain side is taken over. That's why, every powerful expert of the world must stand united to protect the world. But now the Sacred Light Temple wants to unify the eastern seas to get more resources, and they are almost successful in doing so. However, the sects at the Chenwu mainland are very strong, furthermore, it is vast. No one wants to be controlled by the Sacred Light Temple. After arriving at the Hero Mountain and taking a mountain road, the sky was already bright. Chen Shang didn't expect that the top of the Hero Mountain to be actually made flat using giant bricks and stones. It seemed that it was done many years back. Around the square, there were also many crude benches and tables carved from stone. Each stone table was built using square-shaped stones, and the same was true for the stone chairs. Those who had arrived earlier were already sitting. Each sect had its own table. However, there was a very big table with 40 or so seats. Chen Shang reckoned that it was the Extreme Martial Sect's table. Sure enough, Ji Dongchen with the Extreme Martial Sect disciples walked up to that table. After Chen Shang sat down, he stuck his tongue out to Shui Shenxian and the others. It could be considered as a greeting. He knew that within moments, he would be facing some kind of disaster. If possible, he must take this opportunity to be intimate with his fairy-like wife. After everyone arrived, no one said anything. The atmosphere was very solemn and depressing. In boredom, Chen Shang chose to count the number of tables which were actually over 400. Besides the Extreme Martial Sect's table, the other tables could only accommodate 5 people. That is to say, the people participating in the Hero Assembly were no more than 2,000 in all. Chapter 369, Taking a Stand. Taking a stand. Hi guys. So this is the final chapter of last week, another chapter will be released sometime later today. Enjoy, and do check out my Patreon page. 6th chapter of last week. Chen Shang noticed that many tables only had 2 to 3 people each. The devil sect deans were dressed in black robes and had their heads covered in their hoods as they sat on their own sectioned-off tables. While everyone was feeling quite bored, a golden light as dazzling as sunlight shone over from far away. Immediately, everyone glanced over. Chen Shang knew even without looking that it was definitely people from the Sacred Light Temple. Many people on the tables suddenly stood up. Besides the sects and clans of the Chenwu mainland, the guests from all the other mainlands walked over the center where there weren't any tables and stood quietly. Ji Dongchen clenched his fists tightly in anger. These martial artists from the other mainlands had submitted to the Sacred Light Temple. Even the Nirvana realm martial artists had seemed fearful of the Sacred Light Temple. This display was done so that the martial artists from the Chenwu mainland could see and witness this fact. With Qin Zejin at the forefront, a large crowd dressed entirely in golden robes flew over, emanating an oppressive pressure. They landed on the square at the summit of the mountain, and as Qin Zejin waved his hand, the people standing at attention in the center all returned to their seats. The golden-robed martial artists behind Qin Zejin also soon found their seats and sat down. There were as many as 200 martial artists gathered, but amongst them, 40 or so were dressed differently. These 40 people separated into 10 tables and sat down. If I'm not wrong, these 10 tables are for the 10 relatively stronger mainlands. They are very different than those golden-robed martial artists, and their overall strength is quite fearsome as well. Long Shui said. The eastern seas possessed a total of 10 powerful mainlands, but it seemed they had all been won over by the Sacred Light Temple. However, these people would naturally not join forces to deal with the Extreme Martial Sect. At most, they would try to isolate the Extreme Martial Sect. They did not dare to try and extinguish the top sect, who had been guarding the entrance to the Devil and Demon world. Otherwise, the Western Seas, Northern Seas, and the Southern Seas, all 3 sea domains would definitely say something against it. Your Sacred Light Temple seems to have brought a bit too many people. You occupied tables belonging to others. Ji Dongchen coldly said. He didn't have a single bit of favorable impression towards Qin Zejin, the Sacred Light Temple's pope. Chen Shang had never left the Chenwu mainland. As such, he wasn't clear on anything about the other mainlands. Upon hearing Ji Dongchen's words, he he learned that these tables that were just filled should not have been. In other words, the martial artists from the other 400 mainlands had yet to arrive. Well, extreme martial sects Dean, not to mention people from the Western Seas, Southern Seas, North Seas, even martial artists from the Eastern Seas are not willing to come. So I just brought others to fill the tables, this shouldn't be a problem. Qin Zejin coldly smiled as he glanced at the other martial artists from the Qinwu mainland. Ha ha ha, even Hua Shangyu who's from your Qinwu mainland has not arrived. The charisma of the extreme martial sects is rather weak. Qin Zejin ridiculed. Suddenly from far away, a gentle scoff came, who says I have not arrived. Qin Zejin, you are still the same. You don't know anything besides bullshitting. Hua Shangyu came alone, she was the individual who stood at the peak of the Qinwu mainland. There won't be any problem, even without anyone accompanying her here. After having dressed in a snow-white dress, Hua Shangyu, this seductress, didn't have any ounce of coquettishness. She was no different than a fairy who had descended from the heavens. Without even bothering to glance at Qin Zejin, she sat down at her table. Although there were more than a dozen beautiful deans, and even more beautiful girls, they all could not be compared with Hua Shangyu. Only Lu Menjie could stand shoulder to shoulder with her. Although Leng Yulan and Shui Shenxian were both beautiful, they were still lacking the mature charm as well as the temperament of a powerful expert. However, they still garnered the attraction of many. Ha, the Dean of Icewind Valley has also not arrived. Your Qinwu mainland is not even united yet you still want to gather everyone here. Qi Zejin had just been mocked by Hua Shangyu which made him secretly unhappy. Lu Menjie said dismissively, I am the Icewind Valley's Dean. While speaking, a sudden gust of cold wind spread outward from her location. As the gust of cold wind brushed against their bodies, the complexion of many Nirvana realm martial artists changed. Meanwhile, the disciples didn't seem to have any major issues, they just felt a gust of extremely cold wind. Suddenly, it seemed like the entire square was under pressure that stopped their breaths. After a short moment, all the Nirvana realm martial artists exhaled lightly, and unexpectedly, they all exhaled cold air. Li Menjie had used the most effective and direct way to prove her identity as the Dean of Icewind Valley. Chen Shang already knew this and wasn't surprised. However, the revelation of her identity this early on had taken him aback. It seems that the God Weapon sect's Dean position is most cumbersome, they always need to manage to identity. Ji Yu Dongchen smiled and said. He glanced at Chen Shang. From Chen Zhang's mood, Ji Yu Dongchen realized that Chen Shang already seemed to know Lu Menjie's identity. Chen Shang and Lu Menjie's relation had even made him a little envious. Such a beauty had fallen into the hands of a little rascal, he felt it was a reckless waste of a god's gift. Leng Yulan and Shui Shenxian were also shocked by Lu Menjie's identity. Now they realized why Lu Menjie often visited Icewind Valley. Teacher, Leng Yulan shouted in a low voice. Lu Menjie smiled and nodded her head. Leng Yulan never knew that Icewind Valley's dean was Lu Menjie. Although she was astounded, she was very excited as well. She had a favorable impression of Lu Menjie, and now Shui Shenxian just became her senior sister. The same feeling was also true for Shui Shenxian. However, the two didn't know that their teacher's heart had already been stolen by Chen Shang. If this matter was somehow leaked, the entire Eastern Seas would be shaken. Icewind Valley's Icewind Divine Exercise is true to its name. It deserves to be called Divine Exercise. The Sacred Light Temple's Pope, Qin Zejin spat a few pieces of ice then walked towards a table. Divine Exercise. Upon hearing these two words, everyone in the square could not help but look at Lu Menjie. Only Chen Shang, who was in possession of so many divine exercises, wasn't too surprised by this. But the other martial artists were different, divine exercises were the supreme martial exercises. After the cultivation of a divine exercise, it would be possible for the cultivator to transcend mortality. In the mortal world, those who were in possession of divine exercise were extremely scarce. Not even mentioning divine exercise, even sacred level and immortal level exercises were a rarity. One of the 10 ancient bizarre exercises, the Icewind Divine Exercise. Even I don't know the intricate details of this divine exercise. Su Meiyao said in surprise. I always wanted to learn this divine exercise, I even sought it for many years, but alas I never found it. Who would have thought that this divine exercise would actually appear in the mortal world? Bai Yuyu was a little excited. She too cultivated cold qi, this kind of martial exercise was most suitable for her. Sister Yuyu, if the opportunity comes, I will ask her. Chen Shang laughed and said. Bai Yu had passed on to him many devil techniques. These devil techniques were as formidable as the divine exercises, he certainly had to find a way to repay her. There is no need. Sometimes, even if one wanted to pass on the divine exercise, it is not possible. Especially these kinds of bizarre exercises. Bai Yu shook her head. She had searched for it for a very long time. Although she had found it, the other person could probably not give it to her. She clearly knew this was very difficult. Chen Shang didn't say anything but still intended to give it a try. Friends of Eastern Sea's mainland, I think everyone is already well aware why we have gathered here today. I am also not going to say much. I just want to know where everyone stands. Once the entrance to the demon and devil world opens, I want to know whether or not you will come help. Ji Yu Dongchen went straight to the point as he loudly asked everyone in the square. The entire square was peaceful. Everyone from the Chenwu mainland had already guessed the answer beforehand. After all, besides the Chenwu mainland, every other mainland in the eastern seas had been reined in by the Sacred Light Temple. Chapter 370, Ambition. Ambition. Hi guys. Sorry for all the delay. When I said another chapter will be coming, I was willing to translate but power wished otherwise. I was faced with power cut for the whole day, it was the day before yesterday. And as for tomorrow, I just wished to sleep, I did nothing but sleep. Sorry about that. Anyhow, I'm currently working on the next chapter, let's see if I can release it today or not. Enjoy. And please do visit my Patreon page. One more thing, no matter how much you contribute, there will be 5 extra chapters which you can read ahead than the released chapters. Next month, not this month. 1/6 chapter of this week. If Ji Yu Dongchen had said that something was going to happen today, then it will not be simple. If the Sacred Light Temple does not agree to help, then were they going to leave? And will Ji Yu Dongchen not do anything either? In Chen Zhang's opinion, the Sacred Light Temple, at today's Heroes Assembly, would certainly force Chenwu mainland to surrender to them. They would completely dominate the entire Eastern Sea as a pretense for the great cause. But of course, he still could not determine what disaster would befall on his head. Although he was famous in the Chenwu mainland, he was just a minor figure amidst these group of Nirvana realm martial artists. If it comes to it, on that day, the Chenwu mainland will collectively repel the demon and devil world. I just hope that everyone can lend us a hand. Ji Yu Dongchen was left with no patience, he had long guessed the result but he still had to go according to his plan. After a moment, everyone was hesitatingly staring at each other. The martial artists from other mainlands would not lend a hand, yet Ji Yu Dongchen still remained calm. The same was true for the deans of Chenwu mainland's other sects. They had already imagined this scene. Ji Yu Dongchen's words sounded inconsequential to them, as though they didn't need to pay attention to them. Suddenly a laughter of ridicule broke the silence at the scene. This laughter was very disgusting, no matter whether it was friend or foe, they could not help but frown upon hearing it. When everyone turned their heads to find the source of the laughter, a middle-aged man dressed in golden robe stood up, and walked out of his seat. On one side he was laughing, while on the other, walked to the open space at the center. It was Pope of the Sacred Light Temple, Qin Zejin. Facing Ji Yu Dongchen, he suddenly ceased laughing as he pointed at Ji Yu Dongchen and sneered, "Ji Yu Dongchen, no one will support you. If it's just your Chenwu mainland's martial artists, they will simply be unable to resist those invading demons and devils like surging tides." Ji Yu Dongchen blankly looked at Qin Zejin. "I know it already," Ji Yu Dongchen calmly said. Even facing such a predicament, his calmness garnered the admiration of all the experts from overseas. For the Chenwu mainland, there are only 3 roads which you can take. First, surrender to Sacred Light Temple. Second, you yourself alone can resist the demons and devils. Third, flee the Chenwu mainland. Qin Zejin coldly glanced through the deans of Chenwu mainland. If they all made the decision and only Ji Yu Dongchen wasn't willing, then they would have to take the next course of action. Qin Zejin had planned for a long time, now he was just a step away from completely uniting the Eastern Seas for the great cause. Moreover, he would also become a legend who will be mentioned in the annals of history. Because he would be the first person in history who would dominate a sea domain. He had grand ambition, after the Eastern Seas, it would be the entire mortal martial world. I promise, as long as you are willing to hang Sacred Light Temple's banner, your mainland will be managed in accordance with Sacred Light Temple's rule. You will still remain rulers of your mainland, you still will be high and lofty deans, and you will also get a fair share of the entire Eastern Seas. Qin Zejin's voice was fervent and excited, his words made the hearts of many beat incessantly. Because as long as these Nirvana realm martial artists grouped together, they could monetize the resources of the entire Eastern Seas, and if anyone tried to oppose them, they would strangle him to death. If you agree, you can just come to me, put on Sacred Light Temple's attire and pledge yourself to the temple, then you, my friend, will become a member of Sacred Light Temple. Qin Zejin took out many golden robes and raised them high in the air, waiting for the Dean of Chenwu mainland to come and receive. At this time, Hua Shanyu giggled and said, Qin Zejin, this dress is too ugly, I don't want to wear it. Even thinking of wearing this ugly dress every day makes me want to puke, I truly don't know who would even come out for this dress. Lu Menjie chuckled, I also don't want to wear this robe, it is really ugly. Like shit, Leng Yulin snorted, which made everyone burst into laughter. Of course, it was the extreme martial sect's disciples. Qin Zejin slightly quivered as he glared at Leng Yulin, only to see Lu Menjie's complexion turning solemn as a gust of cold wind blew. Qin Zejin withdrew the murderous look in his eyes. Why, does your Chenwu mainland like to choose the other two roads? Do you wish to abandon the civilians of your mainland, or die with them? Qin Zejin once again shouted in a loud voice. This scenario was beyond what Qi Zejin had expected. He glanced at the devil sect deans. He knew that the devil sect deans and righteous sects had always been at odds, moreover, they would very much like to choose the resources over the safety of civilians. They should have submitted to the Sacred Light Temple, but he failed to get any response from them whatsoever. Other experts from overseas were also having a hard time understanding this. From the very beginning, they were more or less have been suppressed. Of course, most of the martial artists would have a hard time resisting the temptation of Qin Zejin. After all, every expert yearned to cross the Nirvana realm and finally ascend to the heavenly realm, and as for things like morality and justice, they didn't care much about it. Qin Zejin emphasized once again, does everyone not wish to safely cross their next tribulation? Do you not wish to cross Nirvana realm and ascend to heavenly realm? As long as you can ascend, in the future, you don't need to worry about dying under that damn Nirvana tribulation, or do you want to vanish in a puff of smoke? As long as we are together, we do not need to fear Nirvana tribulation again. The wealthier a person is, the more he fears death. The same is true for the strongest of martial artists. Naturally, there is always an exception, some martial artists who have understood life and death thoroughly. This type of people are not many, but neither are they few. Such are those who will not violate the will of martial arts way. Suddenly, two devil sects deans stood up. However, once they looked at Ji Yudongchen, they sat right back down. This made Qin Zejin extremely annoyed. He could not understand how Ji Yudongchen had such deterrence. Although his strength was almost the same, Qin Zejin was the Pope of Sacred Light Temple who was able to rally tens of Nirvana realm martial artists from 10 strongest mainlands together. Ji Yudongchen was far worse than him. Ji Yudongchen was just a dean of extreme martial sect, but compared to Qin Zejin, he appeared to be insignificant. Qin Zejin, you are so impatient. What makes me want to laugh is that demons and devils have yet to attack, but we already have infighting amongst us. What is even funnier is that there are also a bunch of idiots who are willing to follow you. Lian Yingxiao smiled and said, this made many Nirvana realm martial artists abruptly angry. Surnamed Lian, so according to your little understanding, who are these idiots? A long-bearded old man stood up as he spoke in a stern voice while glaring at Lin Yingxiao. It is those who are willing to wear that shitty dress. Have I understood enough? Lian Yingxiao still said with a light smile hung on his face. In doing so, he was undoubtedly scolding those Nirvana realm martial artists of Sacred Light Temple, which made them stand up one by one and glare at Lian Yingxiao furiously. Chen Shang secretly admired the Lotus Island Dean. His appearance says he is gentle and refined, while his mouth says otherwise. Do you think I'm wrong? You, these bitches, don't you know the rules of martial arts? Did you forget the will of martial arts way? Don't think that you could live through the Nirvana tribulation just because you can control all resources in the world, do not even think about it. Any martial artist who goes against its will, the more powerful he is, the more ruthless the Nirvana tribulation will be lowered upon him. Guys like you will all finally have to die under the Nirvana tribulation. Lian Yingxiao sneered. Chapter 371, Law. 2/6 chapter of this week. Those who were angry at first, after hearing Lian Yingxiao's words were slightly trembling inside. Lian Yingxiao, don't spout nonsense, martial arts law and will of martial arts way are all bullshit. I have never believed in that stuff, I toiled hard to reach where I am now, I have obtained my power through my own efforts, anyone or anything else is completely unrelated to it. It's just that heaven is jealous of us. Only when our power reaches a certain level will it lower the nirvana tribulation. It wants to kill us. Qin Zejin loudly proclaimed. Lian Yingxiao sneered, if you don't believe me, then take a look at the guys from Devil Path sect. Since these guys had committed so many sins, not even one person amongst them has crossed 6 tribulations. The Devil sect deans trembled a bit but they did not say anything. Is it true? Is nirvana tribulation truly related to some martial arts law? Chen Shang asked Su Meiyao and Bai Yu. Yes, it is related but how precisely, I have no idea. If you seriously go against the law, then when you are crossing the tribulation, the nirvana tribulation will indeed become stronger. What the exact law is, we are also unsure. At best, all I can say is that from the will of martial arts way you can take a glimpse of it. Su Meiyao explained. The will of martial arts way is used to constrain powerful martial artists. So that these powerful martial artists won't do something which would incur the hatred of both men and God. However, a majority of humans, after acquiring powerful strength, forgot that there was anything called the will of the martial arts way. What utter nonsense! Qin Zejin loudly shouted, then continued, since you, Qinwu mainland are so strong, then you don't need to worry about it, you can take care of everything yourselves. Let me see how you are going to convene the hero assembly. Qin Zejin continued before returning to his seat as he coldly smiled and viciously glared at everyone. At this time, Ji Yu Dongchen spoke, Qin Zejin, I have long been aware of your ambition, but I didn't think that there will be so many idiots to follow your nonsense. And as Brother Lian had said, these bitches will definitely die tragically under the nirvana tribulation in the end. They were already furious from Lian Yingxiao's cursing, yet now they are being cursed once again. This made those nirvana realm martial artists angrily glare at Ji Yu Dongchen one by one. Why, do you want to fight? Did I say anything wrong? You are someone who has been alive for so many years, yet you are actually willing to become someone else's slave, you have actually forsaken your original intention for learning martial arts. Relying on martial arts, you have become powerful, but now using the very same power you want to harm the common people, you will definitely face retribution. Ji Yu Dongchen sounded dull, his voice was filled with ridicule, and when he looked at these nirvana realm martial artists, the look in his eyes was actually that of a pity. Nothing is sadder than abandoning their most trusted thing. As far as martial artists are concerned, they believed in the will of martial arts. But now these nirvana realm martial artists, under the fear of dying during the nirvana tribulation, had forsaken the one thing they trusted when they stepped on the road of martial arts, the will of martial arts way. Humph. Ji Yu Dongchen, in addition to moving your mouth, what can you do now? If you surrender to the sacred light temple, the Qinwu mainland can certainly survive. At that time, the residents of your mainland would not be treated badly. Aren't you also unwilling to submit to sacred light temple just for the sake of your power and influence? Qin Zejin sneered. Lian Yingxiao smiled and said, Qin Zejin, do you think everyone is like you? At the very least, the residents of my Lotus Island are very happy, moreover, I have not enslaved them. If they do some work for my Lotus Island, they will get a very extravagant reward. And if they don't want to, I will not force them either. What about your sacred light continent? Hey, last time I visited that place, it was simply a world of slaves, their life was worse than dogs. Still, it is called sacred light. Bullshit. Surnamed Lian, Qin Zejin was furious. He vigorously slapped his palm on the stone table, but everyone was astounded because not only was there not a single chunk from the table broken off, the table didn't even shake a little. Ji Yu Dongchen sneered, the righteous sects of Qinwu mainland were all established to promote the martial arts. Martial artists too were once ordinary people, they have reached their level step by step. Humans are the fundamentals of martial arts, they are the object of our protection. Once the catastrophe arrives, and if we are not willing to charge forward, then are you going to make civilians stand and resist the demons and devils? What power do they have to resist those demons and devils? So boring, is the Heroes' Assembly even going to be held today? This little miss has somehow taken a time out of her busy schedule. But who would have thought that we would actually have to lecture a group of pigs here? Wrong, I am insulting the pigs. Pigs are better than you, they will not do anything that will bring scourge to humans. Hua Shangyu, with her tender cheek resting on one of her palms, said with an impatient look. Qin Zejin was completely furious. His pair of eyes shone with an ominous gleam as if he could not wait to kill them, but he had to weigh everything. If he killed the deans of Chenwu mainland, the martial artists of western seas, northern seas and southern seas would not let this opportunity go and erase his sacred light temple off the world. The experts of other 3 sea domains were not stupid. They knew that the Sacred Light Temple's existence was a great threat to them. They too wanted to let the Sacred Light Temple collapse, but the Sacred Light Temple had always resorted to peaceful ways to make other continents submit. If they fought against his Sacred Light Temple, a conflict was bound to happen. At that time, both sides would be defeated and wounded. Although Chenwu mainland was just one mainland, Jiyu Dongchen and the others' strength could not be overlooked. Although they overwhelmed them in number, it was a mainland with a long line of history. Some hidden dragon and crouching tiger experts were bound to exist. If they fought here, Qin Zejin might even get injured. It is not up to you to talk about how we are going to defend against the demons and devils. You all can get the fuck out. You are so annoying. The threat of demon and devil domain is imminent, yet you want to take this opportunity to threaten us and dominate the entire eastern seas. Wishful thinking. Lu Menger stood up. The look on her face was as cold as frost. Her pretty eyes were shining in furious gleam. Qin Zejin had now realized that he would not be able to swallow the Chenwu mainland. The thing he could not understand was that what gave the Chenwu mainland's Nirvana realm martial artists such courage that they even dared to resist demons and devils alone. It was just nothing more than a dead end. Things were not going according to his calculations. Tisk, 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 the divine weapon Empress is still as brave as ever. You even dare to speak like this towards our sacred light temple's pope. From far away floated a naughty laughter. It turned out to be coming from an old man. Hearing this voice, a few of the Nirvana realm martial artists suddenly startled. While Jiyu Dongchen on the other hand, immediately stood up, laughed and said, the true people to participate in the Heroes' Assembly have arrived. Chen Shang was a little curious. He asked in a low voice, Elder Wu, who are they? They are the experts of the other 3 domains. They have some conflict with our extreme martial sect. Originally they didn't intend to participate, but the dean somehow persuaded them. Wu Kaming replied in a low voice. Chen Shang now understood why Jiyu Dongchen had said the seats were not enough. Originally, the number of experts from the mainlands of other 3 domains, the southern seas, northern seas and western seas were more compared to the eastern seas. If all of them arrived, then the current gathering could be compared with the one from 100,000 years ago. All of you get up quickly, you are occupying others' seat. Lian Yingxiao laughed. Chen Shang reckoned that Lian Yingxiao might very well be an 8th Tribulation Nirvana realm martial artist. Otherwise, he would not so courageously contradict Qin Zejin. After all, the deans of True Martial Sect, Proud Sword Sect, Free Immortal Sect and others remained silent as they calmly watched the proceedings. As for Hua Shangyu, she herself had been very mysterious. Moreover, she was a high-ranked alchemist. While Lu Menger was in charge of both Divine Weapon Heavenly Empire and Icewind Valley, she also cultivated the Icewind Divine Exercise. Even though she had only crossed 6 tribulations, her strength was impressive. Old Hai, long time no see. Lian Yingxiao laughed and said as a white-haired old man dressed in blue robe appeared beside Qin Zejin. Chapter 372, The Most Crucial Character. The Most Crucial Character. 3/6 chapter of this week. If you can please support me at my Patreon page. Enjoy. As the blue-robed old man appeared, Qin Zejin's complexion turned ugly. This was totally outside his expectation. Previously, he was quite sure that the experts from other sea domains would not be arriving to participate in the Heroes' Assembly. Subsequently, other people landed on the square at the summit of the mountain one by one. Over 100 or so people, consisting of males and females of varying ages, from old to young, were all present. Chen Shang was left stunned upon witnessing this, because he knew these people were all extremely powerful Nirvana realm martial artists who had arrived from other sea domains. This scene was indeed an eye-opener. For the very first time, he was able to see so many Nirvana realm martial artists gathered together while they laughed and chatted with each other. Jiyu Dongchen went to greet them. Chen Shang discovered that these people were all well connected and knew each other. Lu Menger, Lian Yingxiao, and the others also went to greet a few people. Even Proud Sword Sect's Yu Zhongling also knew a few of them. Is this the mortal martial world's expert circle? It sure is marvelous, Chen Shang exclaimed. Generally, all Nirvana realm martial artists would go out to travel. After they arrive at other continents, they would certainly go and meet the experts of that continent first, and then associate with each other. Sometimes they would also exchange some stuffs. It is also one of the ways by which Nirvana realm martial artists find precious herbs. Su Meiyao said. Qin Zejin was incredibly thick-skinned and surprisingly, he still hadn't left. The Nirvana realm martial artists of Eastern Seas who had submitted to the Sacred Light Temple also found it quite unbearable, because they all knew that the Sacred Light Temple didn't have any good reputation in the other 3 sea domains. And now others were pointing or staring at them, there were some who even knew them, some of whom were their friends. Yo, Pope, you are still here. The blue-robed old man smiled and said. Chen Shang discovered that this blue-robed elder called Old Hao was very respected. Many Nirvana realm martial artists politely greeted him. Lan Hai, didn't you all have deep-seated hatred with extreme martial sect? If I remember correctly, a couple of your teeth had been knocked out by Huang Jintian in the past. It's just not you, the majority of people in your group had been beaten by Huang Jintian once. Qin Zejin sneered. Chen Zhang's heart skipped a beat. He remembered once Huang Jintian said that in the past a bunch of people wanted to force him to surrender the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, but he refused and in the end, it ushered into a big fight in which many experts were injured by him and finally the beast martial sect Dean even lost his poor life. Many rallied together against him before he was imprisoned in the extreme martial sect's forbidden area until today. Yes, originally we didn't intend to come, but we only had grudges with that old madman. Dean Ji, on the other hand, is a friend. Now, everyone please take your seats as in the past, the heroes' assembly will now begin. Lan Hai shouted. Subsequently, everyone arrived at their respective table and sat down one by one. Just 400 continents and 400 tables. Initially, the Sacred Light Temple had occupied no small amount of seats, but now, they had to empty those seats which made Qin Zejin unhappy. He had already lost his momentum and power. After all, powerful experts from other 3 domains were gathered here, mere Eastern Seas were far from enough. The experts of other 3 sea domains arrived along with some of their disciples. They brought these disciples to let them play with each other in order to broaden their horizons. Let them experience the circle of strongest experts of Heroes Assembly. Before we start the meeting, I hope that those who do not intend to help the Chenwu mainland resist demons and devils would consciously leave. Ji Dongchen glanced at Qin Zejin and his group. Qin Zejin coldly retorted, who says we are not going to help the Chenwu mainland? Now that it had come to this, Qin Zejin was also left with no other way. If he left in front of the other 3 sea domains, then later perhaps Ji Dongchen and the others would discuss to deal with the people who had conspired to isolate the Chenwu mainland with the Sacred Light Temple, and remove his Sacred Light Temple from the face of this world. He had to stay. Elder Wu, why was Dean able to invite the experts of other sea domains? Chen Shang tugged Wu Kaiming's sleeve and asked in a low voice. Till now, the Heroes' Assembly was moving in the right direction. As it is now, nothing unfavorable could go for the Chenwu mainland. And thence, the Huang Jintian's prediction of him encountering some disaster would also not come by. Just wait and watch, you will soon know. Wu Kaiming's complexion seemed to be a little strange, but Chen Shang could not see anything out of the order. Chen Shang could not help but feel that there was something wrong. Although everything was proceeding in the correct direction, he still could not help but have a bad feeling. Ji Dongchen, there is nothing to talk regarding resisting the demons and devils. This time, we all came to defend until our last breath at the 100,000 Devil Mountains, just like in the past. Every continent will have its own arrangement. Now let's talk about business, you must comply with your promise. A middle-aged beauty said. That's right, let's talk business. As long as your commitment is true, we will help you kill the demons and devils. Lan Hai also seconded. Soon other people also followed in shouting. Only now did Qin Zejin understand. Originally, Ji Dongchen had promised them something, and only because of this were the experts of other 3 sea domains willing to set aside their grievances and come here. As to what he had promised, he could only wait and let everything proceed. What could be so important that it could lure them all here? Chen Shang was also thinking about that very same question. He remembered when Huang Jintian was a dean, he had forged enmity against many powerful experts. He suddenly felt that these powerful experts of other 3 domains were not of the good kind. They all came here completely because of the conditions proposed by Ji Dongchen. Everyone looked at Ji Dongchen, waiting for him to reply. Ji Dongchen forcefully coughed, sighed and said, I will not let your trip become a fool's errand, the person is already sitting on my table. At this time, Ji Dongchen looked at Chen Shang. Chen Shang was astounded, he suddenly thought of something but he dared not believe it. Isn't he Chen Shang? Is he really Huang Jintian's apprentice? With a flicker, Lang Hai's figure, like a blue light, traversed the whole square and appeared before Ji Yudongchen. Chen Shang was now certain, he had been sold out by Ji Yudongchen. Now, he finally realized why Huang Jintian had said that no matter what Ji Yudongchen did, he should not blame him. Although it was so, he still furiously looked at Ji Yudongchen, only to see him smiling right back at him with a completely ashamed look on his face. The experts of other 3C domains had a conflict with Huang Jintian just because they wanted to acquire his Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. If Ji Yudongchen promised to pay out Huang Jintian's apprentice, they promised to help Chenwu mainland in resisting the invasion of demons and devils together. Chen Shang was Huang Jintian's apprentice, so he definitely knew the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. If he didn't know, they could always use Chen Shang to threaten Huang Jintian. That's why in the eyes of these Nirvana realm martial artists, Chen Shang was akin to an extreme treasure. Ji Yudongchen, you motherfucker, you actually dare to sell out this father. Chen Shang furiously roared. Now he knew what it meant by an imminent disaster that was going to be landing on his head. Upon hearing Chen Zhang's yelling, everyone was stunned, but now they were dead sure that Chen Shang was Huang Jintian's apprentice. And Ji Yudongchen's martial uncle. Everyone secretly whispered in each other's ear as they discussed about Chen Shang in a low voice. Particularly, the experts of Chenwu mainland. They were even more astounded by Chen Zhang's identity. They now understand why Ji Yudongchen would always protect Chen Shang. Because he was the martial uncle of all 3 tycoons of extreme martial sect. Many of the disciples of the present generation were all scared to death. Even the disciples and elders of extreme martial sect who were present at the scene were all taken by surprise. Chen Shang always knew that this day would arrive, but he didn't expect it to arrive so soon. Although he was angry, he quickly wrecked his brain and soon came to realize that Ji Yudongchen must have definitely discussed this with Huang Jintian. Otherwise, even if he had all the courage in the world, Ji Yudongchen would not have dared to sell him out. Chapter 373, Impossible to Escape. Impossible to Escape. 4/6 chapter of this week. After realizing some of these things, Chen Shang wasn't that angry. Now, he must calm himself down in order to properly face this sudden matter. He absolutely could not be taken away by these Nirvana realm martial artists, or else, they would resort to all kinds of threats and inducements in the future to make him hand over the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. Ji Yudongchen only promised them that he would hand you over. Now, Ji Yudongchen has already fulfilled his promise. As far as he is concerned, whatever happens next is none of his business. Even if you escape, they still have to fulfill their side of the bargain. So you must escape, Su Meiyao said. Both she and Bai Yuyu were extremely anxious. However, what they must first do was to calm themselves down before discussing countermeasures. Chen Shang clenched his fists as he remained standing in place. He knew that it was a stroke of luck which made it possible for him to acquire Huang Jintian's inheritance. And now, he has to pay for this. Everything, from acquiring the complete Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise for nothing, to getting Huang Jintian's help and embark on the right path of cultivation was all extremely rare indeed. Many years ago, Huang Jintian had forged enmity with the experts of the other 3C domains. The experts of the 3C domains didn't arrive to participate in the Heroes' Assembly, it was the work of a single person alone. Huang Jintian was responsible for this, and that's why Huang Jintian pushed everything onto Chen Shang. After some thinking, Chen Shang came to realize that this scenario had already been planned by Huang Jintian and Ji Yudongchen. Huang Jintian had once said that it was a kind of test. Certainly, the Nirvana realm martial artists would not make it outrageously difficult for Chen Shang. After all, Huang Jintian was still alive and kicking. Little rascal, we will not make things difficult for you. You are Huang Jintian's apprentice, he should have passed on the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise to you. The blue-robed old man asked with a smile. From his appearance, it seemed he could not cause any harm to humans or animals. But in Chen Zhang's opinion, it was nothing more than hypocrisy. Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. Upon hearing these words, everyone held their breath in surprise. In the past, because Huang Jintian cultivated this marvelous bizarre exercise, he came to possess preeminent strength due to which he showed disdain for the mortal world, struck terror in all direction and killed many famous Nirvana realm martial artists. After Huang Jintian agreed to be punished and imprisoned himself in the forbidden area, his apprentice took over the extreme martial sect. He similarly cultivated the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, and his cultivation soared by leaps and bounds. In just a short span of time, he had ascended to the heavenly realm. If not for Ji Dongchen going out to fight with other martial artists every once in a while, everyone would have suspected that he too had acquired the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. As long as you hand over the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, we will not make things difficult for you. Isn't the catastrophe going to arrive? If you share the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise with everyone, you will be the biggest contributor for mankind, you will be a hero. Lan Hai said. His tone was rather gentle, it seemed as if he was stealing candy from a baby. Chen Shang slightly laughed. Do you have yin and yang vein? If you don't have, you are unable to learn Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. Besides, much to everyone's surprise, even under such circumstances, Chen Shang was speaking so calmly. Just a moment ago, Chen Shang in a state of extreme anger shouted at Ji Dongchen, but now he had calmed himself down. This kind of state of mind had rendered everyone surprised. Many already knew that the absolute requirement of cultivating Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise was yin and yang vein. Now, everyone understood why Chen Shang was so monstrous. Originally, because he cultivated the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, he was able to defeat Xiao Chou of Herculean family. Realizing this point, everyone thirsted even more for the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. Not only was it a divine exercise, it was still a dragon martial technique which went against the common norms. Upon thinking about this, everyone was in a frenzy. I am well aware, even if I can't cultivate the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, that does not mean I can't create some power martial technique. Lan Hai laughed and said. Chen Shang glanced all around. He discovered that these Nirvana realm martial artists had their face filled with greed. They were all waiting for him to hand over the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. Lu Menjie and Hua Shangyu walked together. They already knew Chen Shang was Huang Jintian's apprentice. They had been in constant worry that this day would come, but they had not expected it to arrive so soon. Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulin both tightly clasped Lu Menjie's hand. The revelation of Chen Zhang's identity had also surprised them, yet at the same time, it became the cause of their worry. They both knew that in that past, in order to seize the Tai Chi subduing exercise, a dreadful slaughter was set off in the entire mortal world. Chen Shang scratched his head and laughed. Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise is a supreme divine exercise. I had to spend an entire year just to remember the whole thing. How should I say this? If I am to hand it over, I will need 1 or 2 years. When everyone heard this, they were petrified for a moment. However, they were even more excited. He needed an entire year to remember the whole exercise. Evidently, this spoke for its esoteric principles itself. Obviously, Chen Shang was intentionally exaggerating, and he was now stalling for time. Ji Dongchen secretly came to admire Chen Shang for his calmness in such a dangerous situation. Previously, he was prepared to be cursed a few times by him. I only promised to hand him over. I did not guarantee that he would tell you Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. Whether you can ask him all depends on you. Ji Dongchen sighed softly and surprisingly jumped into the sky and flew away. Once Ji Dongchen left, what was going to happen next had no relation with him whatsoever. He had already completed his end of the bargain with these Nirvana realm martial artists. Escape. Currently, he was surrounded by a few hundred Nirvana realm martial artists. If he escaped, perhaps these Nirvana realm martial artists would die from shame. As Chen Shang glanced at Sacred Light Temple's Qin Zejin as well as the other Nirvana realm martial artists who were wearing golden robes, he said, Seniors, I understand that Ji Dongchen has made an agreement with you, but how can the people of Sacred Light Temple share the same benefits? Seniors, you are the one who Ji Dongchen had made an agreement with. Don't you think Sacred Light Temple is getting all the advantages for nothing? Chen Shang was indeed right. The experts of other sea domains secretly felt happy. They had come from far away just for the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, while the Sacred Light Temple didn't have any agreement with Ji Dongchen. You lots of Sacred Light Temple, get the fuck out! Lan Hai shouted. At this time, everyone felt incredibly excited because they knew Chen Shang had no way out. He had no choice but to pass the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise to them. The people of Sacred Light Temple ground their teeth in hatred. In their eyes, the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise was also akin to extreme treasure. But now, how could they remain here? The opposite side had powerful experts of 3 sea domains, and if they fight, they were going to lose without a shred of doubt. Chen Shang was stalling for time in order to think of some ways to escape. After the martial artists of Sacred Light Temple left with a dejected look hanging on their faces, Ji Yudongchen once again came back. Now, Chen Shang was standing in the center while 300 or so Nirvana realm martial artists surrounded him. The sects of Chenwu mainland cannot leave. The martial artists of Sacred Light Temple are definitely close by. Seniors, can you lay down a soundproof barrier so that when I speak the chanting formula, others can't hear it? And everyone please have patience because the chanting formula is incredibly long. Chen Shang had a helpless look hanging on his face while everyone was even more excited. They immediately laid down a soundproof barrier together. It did not take long for the soundproof barrier to be completed. It completely isolated the sounds from either side. Neither the people outside could hear what was happening inside, nor the people inside able to hear anything happening on the outside. Everyone was fearless of any kind of attack. After all, they were the strongest martial artists standing at the peak of the mortal world. What should they be afraid of? Chen Shang was also very excited. If he could escape from amidst these people, it was no different than ruthlessly slapping them in their faces. Chapter 374, Creating Opportunity. Creating Opportunity. 5/6 chapter of this week. That Chen Shang could even escape didn't even cross Ji Yudongchen's mind because it was absolutely impossible. That was why he especially selected the elite disciples in the sect in order to let them learn the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. The experts of other 3C domains brought their proud disciples for the very same intentions. Seniors, Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise is very abstruse. Although I had memorized it, my comprehension of it is still nothing but superficial. If everybody wants to understand its abstruse principles, you must first know the backdrop of how Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise was created and some of its stories. This is to let everyone realize what they are lacking, realize the greatness of its creation as well as know how insignificant we are. This is what my teacher told me. And according to him, this is one of the most important parts of the entire exercise. Chen Shang said with a solemn look pasted on his face. It seemed that it truly had happened. But of course, we are very happy to learn the stories of Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. After all, some martial exercises need a certain level of understanding. Maybe these stories will let us gain a deeper level of understanding. Lan Hai nodded his head and said. Other experts too nodded their heads in agreement one by one. Chen Shang was secretly having a great laugh. He suddenly found it cool to fool these hypocritical guys. In the future, he could even use it to have a great laugh. Senior really knows his stuff, truly worthy of experts whom my teacher often mentioned about. This junior completely admires you. Chen Shang cupped his hand to salute Lan Hai as he said with a complete look of admiration on his face. This caused Lan Hai to secretly feel proud. Chen Zhang's gaze swept through every expert around him. Using this opportunity, he even took a peek at Lu Menger and the girls. Then seriously said, has everyone heard of the Imperial Dragon family? I have heard of Ancient Dragon family, as for Imperial Dragon family, I've never heard of them. Lan Hai shook his head, others too shook their head in unison. In his heart, Chen Shang secretly felt elated. Long Shui, this smelly dragon would often brag about the Imperial Dragon family. If he narrated the story of Imperial Dragon family, he could go on for at least 10 to 15 days easily. Everybody please focus, the Imperial Dragon family is akin to emperor-like existences in the dragon family. The Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise was created by a dragon of the Imperial Dragon family. And the well-known countless dragon martial techniques were all created by these very members of Imperial Dragon family. The so-called Dragon Slayer's divine martial techniques does not only grant humans the power to slay dragons, but using the same techniques, a dragon can also slay a dragon. That's why these techniques are extremely terrifying. People who knew me, all know that many of the martial techniques I use are related to dragons. This is the most terrifying about the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. Although Chen Shang was amusing them, it lured everyone's attention. Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise is very powerful. It is a divine level technique amongst the dragon martial techniques. And it is ranked 9th in the Imperial Dragon family's dragon martial techniques. There are 8 other stronger techniques above it which are said to have fallen into mortal world. The crowd of martial artists burst into exclamations. The Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise was just ranked 9th. Next, Chen Shang began talking nonsense. From left and right he pulled out some stories, fabricated some of the nonsense, and with Long Shui help, accordingly added a little bit. The way he spoke seemed to make everyone immerse in his stories. As if they themselves were the protagonists, as if they were in the world of Imperial Dragon. Like this, 3 days had passed in the blink of an eye. Chen Shang excitedly said, the most crucial point of cultivating the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise is the state of mind. You need to be like a dragon who has an aura of looking down upon the whole world. Although all seniors here are the strongest experts in the mortal world, after you arrive at heavenly realm, your strengths cannot even be compared with a claw of the dragon. Facing the imposing manner of a dragon, everyone will feel like an ant. But, after cultivating the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, we can slay dragons. Chen Zhang's nonsense went on straight for 3 days and 3 nights, yet he still had not arrived at the main point. Although some people were getting impatient, they still listened to him with rapt attention. Because Chen Shang had repeatedly mentioned that these stories were very important, they must definitely remember. All because when they are going to cultivate the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, they could get some enlightenment from these stories. Watching Chen Shang conning these people, Long Shui could not stop laughing. She also continuously kept imparting Chen Shang with new ideas. Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu were also trying to find ways. Alright, seniors, you have to first assimilate what I have said till now. Afterward, I will begin imparting the chanting formula. Everybody has to remember the chanting formula well. If you forget even one word when you are cultivating, it could very easily lead to Qigong deviation and you might even die. A solemn look appeared on Chen Zhang's face. Although these people could not cultivate the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, they needed to draw reference and create some martial techniques from it. That's why there was no room for carelessness. Chen Shang rested for a moment as he discussed with the 2 girls inside the ring, is there a plan? Smelly dragon, tell me what you have discovered, what about the surroundings? There is a very small hole enough for a bird to get under a table. This hole is very deep and I don't know where it will lead. All the stone tables and chairs are protected by a strange power, so it is very difficult to break them and also difficult to probe. My divine sense is unable to enter the depths of the hole. Long Shui said. Chen Shang was pleasantly surprised. The Heroes' Mountain was the venue of Heroes' Assembly, so of course, it had to be marvelous. Perhaps, 100,000 years ago, this place was carefully built by the strongest of experts. And after repulsing the demons and devils, they might have come here to celebrate. According to Junjun, her parents are nearby. If you open the profound beast bag, her parents will be able to sense the aura of little white tiger. Her parents are very strong. Perhaps, they will have a conflict with these people, this might very well be the opportunity we are looking for. Bai Yuyu said. At that time, you can cast the misty sky from the black tortoise divine exercise and envelope this whole area in dense mist. Afterward, you can transform into a bird and quickly drill your way into that hole which is located under the table. Su Meiyao said. Currently, Chen Shang was left with no choice. He quietly opened the profound beast bag, so that the aura of little white tiger quietly overflowed outside. From Bai Junjun, he came to learn that her father and mother were both extremely powerful. They had at least crossed the 8th nirvana tribulation. They could be considered as peak martial artists in mortal world. Mankind definitely could not dare to arbitrarily start a feud with these kinds of demon beasts. After the profound beast bag was opened, Chen Shang began imparting the chanting formula, word by word, very slowly. This time he was speaking the true formula, however, he was very slow. In any case, the chanting formula of Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise was very long, even if he imparted it at a normal speed, it would take a very long time. These Nirvana realm martial artists turned extremely excited just by listening to a few words of the chanting formula, because they all knew its abstrusity. They thought that by coming here to the Chenwu mainland, their harvest was pretty huge. They felt they could create powerful martial techniques from the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise which would be handed down to the later generations by generations, making them famous throughout the ages. Everyone remained very quiet as they aptly listened to the chanting formula read by Chen Shang. Lu Menger and the others had a pretty good understanding of Chen Zhang's character, they always felt that something was bound to happen. They all knew that Chen Shang is not someone who would so easily surrender. Just like this, half a day has already passed, yet Chen Shang had only spoken 50 words of chanting formula. Furthermore, he repeated it 3 times under the pretense that others might not remember. Chen Shang would not truly impart the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. If someone with sinister intentions created some deadly martial technique due to it, it would bring scourge upon the common people. In particular, the devil path martial artists. And if it fell into the hands of demon and devil domain, the consequences would be disastrous. Suddenly, two overlapping tiger roars floated over from far away, which was followed by a gust of wind filled with an aura of slaughter. Surprisingly, it pierced through the barrier, and awakened many people who were immersed in remembering the few words of the chanting formula. Chen Zhang's heart started pounding madly. He knew that his opportunity has arrived. He was currently a little tensed because everywhere around him were Nirvana realm martial artists. If he fails this time, these guys will take care of him more strictly. At that time, it would be difficult to find any opportunity to escape. Chapter 375, Shocking Development. Shocking Development. 6th chapter of this week. Many of the Nirvana realm martial artists whose cultivation was relatively low happened to have a change in their complexion upon listening to the furious tiger roars that kept on coming continuously. Although they, too, were Nirvana realm martial artists, facing this level of white tiger, their only choice was to escape. White Tiger Family, Ji Yu Dongchen dispiritedly said. At this moment, the entire soundproof barrier has already been destroyed. The birds and beasts inside the forest all seemed to be fleeing in fear. The sky above was full of varieties of birds as they flee in distress. The summit could be said to be shrouded in a haze of fear. Chen Shang was secretly shocked. He didn't expect Jun, this little white tiger's parents, to be so formidable. He hastily shut close the opening on the profound beast bag. If they came to know that he had caught their daughter, he was finished. Of course, he had done so in order to let the white tiger husband-wife duo have their hatred pointed at these Nirvana realm martial experts. At that time, as long as the situation here was in chaos, it would present the best opportunity for him to escape. Smelly dragon, can you lure some birds here so that we can confuse these old men? Otherwise, a sudden appearance of a bird will only make them suspicious. Chen Shang asked Long Shuiyi. It's a piece of cake. Those two powerful white tigers are about to arrive. Looking at their imposing manner, they should be ready for a big fight. Long Shuiyi excitedly said. At this time, a flock of birds suddenly charged at the summit of the Heroes' Mountain. Countless birds flew like a swarm of locusts, covering the sky. And the experts at the summit had their hands full, they could only manage so much. All of them stood up and turned their gaze towards the place where the tiger roars seemed to be coming from. At the moment, all they could worry about were those two powerful white tigers. They are coming, Ji Yu Dongchen shouted and flew out. He was the strongest expert of the Qinwu mainland and also the host for the Heroes' Assembly of this time. Surely, he had to guarantee the safety of the assembly. Ji Yu Dongchen was the first to bear the brunt of the attack as a white mist rose from his pair of fists. The power and momentum emanating from these fists had made many hearts tremble. This was precisely the strength of someone who had crossed 8 Nirvana tribulation. At that very moment Ji Yu Dongchen flew out. Two white light streaks made their way here from far away and crashed into Ji Yu Dongchen fiercely. Ji Yu Dongchen immediately followed up with a fierce shout as he suddenly punched out, seemingly bearing the momentum that could topple mountains and overturn the seas. In the twinkling of an eye, it seemed as if the sky and the earth were going to collapse. A large part of the earth had cracked open, even the Heroes' Mountain was shaking violently. A burst of glaring light had covered the sky and the earth, even worse was that it gave people a kind of burning sensation. Of course, what made everyone feel terrified was the monstrous slaughter chi which had covered the world. It made everyone feel as if they were in a battlefield where over 1 billion people were slaughtering each other. After the glaring light vanished, a middle-aged couple stood before Ji Yu Dongchen. The robe worn by the couple were just like the fur of a white tiger, it had many stripes, while the look on their faces seemed to be that of anger. At this time, a flock of birds once again flew their way into the crowd of martial artists. Presently, everyone's attention was completely focused on the white tiger husband and wife couple. They simply didn't notice that a dense mist was slowly spreading under their feet. Lian Yingxiao and the blue-robed old man also charged out and faced the white tiger couple standing next to Ji Yu Dongchen. All of them were not flying, but using their strength, they were making their body float in the air, which can only be done by Nirvana realm martial artists. Chen Shang was also incomparably tensed. At the very moment the glaring light covered everyone's vision, he quietly cast the misty sky. There were countless moves inside the black tortoise divine exercise. Generally, all of the moves were focused on escaping, that was why he rarely used them. However, now was just the right moment to use them. After he kept on releasing a large part of water attributed true chi that transformed into white mist, the mist grew denser and denser. In just a few seconds, the crowd at the summit of the mountain were shrouded in a dense mist. Suddenly, Chen Shang cast 72 transformations and silently metamorphosed himself into a little bird. At this moment, many birds were chaotically fleeing amidst the crowd. He simply would not be discovered. Chen Shang has disappeared, an old man suddenly shouted. Even though many people were watching the white tiger couple, there were still people who were monitoring Chen Shang. Once Chen Shang is discovered, it was immediately known. After Chen Shang turned into a little bird, he immediately flew in accordance with Long Shui's direction and flew his way towards that stone table and entered the small hole under the table. Just as he entered the hole, he heard someone speak that he had disappeared. Chen Shang ran away. How can there be so much damn fog? An old man furiously roared as he released a gust of wind, blowing away the mist to immediately look for Chen Shang. Quickly, look everywhere, Lan Hai shouted. The field was suddenly in a complete chaos. And after the white tiger couple noticed that their daughter wasn't here, on the contrary, it was full of many powerful experts, they angrily roared several times before flying away. Although the beasts could change form, they were still very much detested by mankind. The white tiger couple were worried that instead of finding their daughter, they would be captured. So they had no choice but to leave. Quickly find him, he could not have gone far. The blue-robed old man was anxious as well as furious. Floating high in the air, his gaze swept through the mountain forest everywhere, and he also released his powerful divine sense that swept all around. Just after Chen Shang hid in the small hole, in a few short seconds, he suddenly sensed hundreds of powerful divine sense swept over. But he was not discovered, and thus, he even more leisurely continued his way down the hole. Under the sweeping of hundreds of divine sense of Nirvana realm martial artists, not to mention human, they were even clear of the number of ants. Yet they still could not find Chen Shang. What the fuck happened? Not to mention a little rascal, even if Huang Jintian was here, it would be absolutely impossible to escape in such a short amount of time. Even if he escaped, he would still leave the fluctuations of his aura, but this brat seems as if he had evaporated into thin air. Lan Hai angrily said. He was unable to accept this fact. Although the situation was very chaotic, he felt that even he himself could not escape if he was surrounded by so many Nirvana realm martial artists. But the fact was that Chen Shang had disappeared without a trace. These people were the strongest in the mortal world, their divine sense could almost search a few hundred zhang deep under the ground. In just a short span of time, the entire Hero's Mountain had been locked by their divine sense. They could sense many birds and beasts fleeing, but they could not sense any human running away. Those Nirvana realm martial artists who had come from far away anxiously searched up and down. On one hand, they were grumbling and cursing, while on the other they were searching for Chen Shang using divine sense. Even Ji Yu Dongchen and Wu Kaming took part in the search. Lu Menjie and Hua Shangyu also stood at the edge of the square, released their divine sense and swept the mountain forest around them. They were extremely happy because of Chen Zhang's escape, but they could not understand using what means had Chen Shang escaped. If it was just a few Nirvana realm martial artists then it was still probable, but there were hundreds of Nirvana realm martial artists here, yet he had safely escaped. Shui Shenxian said in a low voice, Brother Shang has really surprised everyone, he had actually run away. Was it just nonsense he was talking? He has always been waiting for an opportunity, this little rascal can be truly hateful. I think that this mist is definitely created by him. Hua Shangyu looking at the white mist and said in a low voice. Suddenly, the entire white mist floated into the sky and slowly gathered together to form a row of words, a bunch of idiots, ha ha ha. Quickly look at the sky. As a man shouted, everyone raised their head. After they read the sentence, they were incessantly furious. They understood that Chen Shang was blatantly shaming them, the Nirvana realm martial artists. And they too also felt it as a great insult. Seeing those few words, Lan Hai furiously roared as he sent a palm towards the sky, thereby dispersing the white mist. Afterward, he looked at Ji Yu Dongchen. Don't look at me, I don't know anything either. Ji Yu Dongchen spread his hand as a bitter smile appeared on his face. Chapter 376, Mysterious Passage. Mysterious Passage. 1/6th chapter of this week. If you can please support me at my Patreon page. Indeed, it had nothing to do with Ji Yu Dongchen. When Chen Shang disappeared, everyone had witnessed Ji Yu Dongchen obstructing the white tiger couple who had suddenly appeared right before them. That white tiger couple abruptly came and abruptly left, which also puzzled everyone. Everyone believed that Chen Shang had escaped using some secret technique. The one thing they were completely sure was that the fog had been released by Chen Shang. That brat indeed has the ability to escape. However, I still can't figure out this martial technique which can leave so much water behind. But obviously, he hadn't used this kind of martial technique to escape. If he had, he would have definitely released a rich water attributed true qi. Lian Yingxiao turned around to look at the stone tables nearby. Even though he had noticed the hole, it never crossed his mind that somebody could escape here because, in his mind, a human could never enter this hole. Ha ha ha, what a bunch of idiots. Surprisingly, that little rascal ran away. Ha ha ha, I am laughing to death here. In my entire life, this is the funniest thing I have ever seen. An insane laughter suddenly floated over, angering Lan Hai and the others even more. It was Huang Jintian's laughter. At the beginning, I intended to wait till that brat had imparted half of Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise before saving him, but who would have expected him to spout a load of bullshit? And after you blockheads actually believed him, he escaped. Ha ha ha, truly worthy of my apprentice. Those bullshit stories are all false, concocted by that brat, but they were actually not that bad. They were enough to fool you blockheads to listen to him for 3 days and 3 nights. Once Huang Jintian finished speaking, he once again burst into maniacal laughter. Listening to his mirth, Lan Hai and the others turned pale. Chen Shang had actually treated them as pigs and toyed them with for 3 days and 3 nights. Ha ha ha, this is so funny. A group of pigs. However, that brat's story was pretty good. You have not suffered a loss here. Ha ha ha. Previously, when Huang Jintian heard Chen Shang telling those stories, he had almost spewed blood from laughing. And now that Chen Shang had fled, he was mercilessly ridiculing these self-righteous Nirvana realm martial artists. Blue-robed old man, if I remembered it correctly, when that little rascal was telling the story, you were the first to praise it. Now, it seems that you are the dumbest pig. Ha ha ha. Lan Hai was trembling in anger, he almost had an impulse to vomit blood. When others thought of the time when Lan Hai was singing to Chen Zhang's tune, it was indeed true that Lan Hai was a complete idiot. At his age, he had actually been played by a little rascal. Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulin too very much wished to laugh, but they dared not. The same was true for Lu Menjie as well as Hua Shangyu, but thinking of it, they realized they too had been cheated, they could not laugh. Ha ha ha, I'm dying here, imagining your looks when you pigs had been fooled by my apprentice, I can't stop laughing. That brat is too formidable, the pupil has surpassed his teacher, ha ha ha. Huang Jintian's voice disappeared, however, that insane laughter which was full of ridicule still echoed everywhere. Lan Hai and the other felt as if someone had ruthlessly slapped them in the face. They were all incomparably furious. This was the biggest shame of their life, especially for Lan Hai. Now, he could not wait to find a hole in the ground and jump into it. Long Shuiyi, Su Meiyao, and Bai Yuyu also could not stop laughing, especially Bai Yuyu. It was the first time for Chen Shang to see her laughing so hard. Needless to mention, Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu, these two girls constantly laughed to their heart's content. As long as they are those who believed Chen Zhang's story were true, they did not feel it was funny at all because they felt like a pig who had been idiotically sitting there, listening to Chen Shang blindly for 3 days and 3 nights, and also believing it was all true. I'm extremely sorry, I admit that at that time, I was no more than a stupid pig in that brat's eyes, I indeed had been played by him. But old Hai, you cannot go back on your words. I have personally handed him over to you, it was you who could not look after him. You can't blame me for that. Ji Yu Dongchen helplessly sighed and said. Chen Zhang's means had taken him by surprise. And now, the public was completely furious. Of course, Lan Hai and the others could not go back on their words. It was indeed their carelessness which allowed Chen Shang to escape. After they all calmed down, they more or less had come to admire Chen Shang a little. Not only had Chen Shang had that kind of means, he also had the guts to even dare to spout nonsense, concoct some stories in front of a few hundred Nirvana realm martial artists, in order to fool them. Not just anyone could have such courage. This brat, I must catch him, Lan Hai angrily snorted. Lian Yingxiao laughed and said, Old Hai, I'm afraid, that brat is not going to return to extreme martial sect for a long time. I think that the next time he returns, he should be in Nirvana realm. Chen Shang in Nirvana realm. Not to mention Nirvana realm, Chen Shang was just in true martial realm, and he had been so unruly. Thinking about this made everyone's head ache. I promise everyone, if he returns to extreme martial sect, I will be the first to catch him and hand him over to you. But of course, if that old madman took action, then I won't have any way to do so. Ji Dongchen bitterly smiled and said. Huang Jintian still made everyone dread him. A majority of the people in here had a bout or two with Huang Jintian. Furthermore, a group of them had besieged Huang Jintian together, yet in the end, they were injured by him. This spoke for Huang Jintian's strength itself. They were all well aware that if Huang Jintian so wished to rely on his heaven-defying strength, he could definitely dominate the entire mortal world. Yet he did not do so, and finally, his fate had fallen to that of a prisoner. Although the old madman is imprisoned, if he wants to take action, it is still not a problem. He seems to have mastered a powerful means by virtue of which he could congeal a body from his divine sense. Ji Dongchen solemnly said. Everyone was aghast. They all looked at each other and noticed a stunned look on everyone's faces. What did they just hear? Huang Jintian actually has the ability to come out and take action. There was already no sign of Chen Shang. Now, he continued advancing through that passage of small hole. He found that this small passage had been intentionally made by someone as if it was leading to a place right below the venue of Heroes' Assembly. Who in the hell had created this? This mountain is but incredibly hard. Chen Shang was extremely uncertain. Previously, the Sacred Light Temple Pope had ruthlessly smacked a palm on the stone table, yet it did not leave any damage, it did not even shake the ground. It was quite clear that, from the beginning to end, this mountain had been carefully crafted. It is very deep, it looks like this passage is going around the mountain till it reaches the bottom. Who in the hell is so bored? If he wanted to reach the bottom, he could have made it straight. Long Shui was also uncertain. The mountain was extremely massive. If the passage continued going around the mountain to reach the bottom, then this passage indeed could only be made by someone who was incredibly bored. Is it sealing some bored guy? Chen Shang made a guess. Previously, when he went to take the suppressing devil divine exercise, he had freed Bai Ziqian who had been sealed there for 100,000 years. If someone was sealed below the mountain, he would not find it strange at all. Who knows? However, this place has always been a forbidden area, there is definitely something under it. At the very least, this passage was intentionally made by someone, it is impossible to be naturally formed. Long Shui said. Chen Shang turned into a mouse and quickly crawled his way into the passage. At the beginning, he intended to hide here for some time before leaving. But now, driven by his curiosity, he continued to advance. Footnotes. TLN. Everyone might be wondering why they were feeling like a pig when they were cheated. It is because according to Chinese astrology, those who have pig as their zodiac sign, they are trusting and sometimes naive, so they may easily fall into traps. Chapter 377, Fortuitous Encounter. Fortuitous Encounter. This chapter is sponsored by Anonymous. Thank you for supporting us. Enjoy. Hero Assembly officially began. The crowd of experts discussed on how to jointly seal that rift and destroy those evil demons later. Naturally, Chen Shang who was still inside that quiet and dark passage had no way to know. What made him a little worried was that he might encounter some danger. This place should be enveloped in a powerful restrictive spell, otherwise, it would not be so firm. Su Meiyao said. Chen Shang also gave it a try, but no matter what he did, he could not budge a single piece of stone, he could not even leave a scratch on the surface. He was now sure that there were definitely some good things hidden under the mountain. This mountain was built 100,000 years ago, a time when the martial way was flourishing. Later, because of the catastrophe, many martial and alchemy techniques were lost. So the current martial artists were much worse than before. After crawling for more than half an hour, Chen Shang suddenly felt a gust of chilly wind which made him feel very comfortable. But this comfortableness didn't last for long because of an extremely strong suction force had suddenly appeared and immediately started to pull him downwards. It felt like he was flying in this small passage. Chen Shang panicked. What the fuck is happening? A strong suction force is sucking you forward. Long Shui explained. There should not be any problem. If this place was established by the martial artists 100,000 years ago, then they should not have any malicious intention. I think that the suction force is there to make you reach that mysterious place quickly. Su Meiyao said. Chen Shang heaved a sigh. However, he was still vigilant. At this moment, he felt like he was moving faster and faster, like he was inside a passage created by the wind itself. And this feeling was pretty good. A moment later, he suddenly fell to the ground. He also reverted back to his human form because there was an ample room of space here. Is this the bottom of the mountain? Where the hell am I? The stone walls in here were exuding a weak white light. Chen Shang glanced all around, hoping to find something here. It was only a broad stone room with nothing else inside, which made him quite disappointed. Which mainland are you from? What sect do you belong to? A very loud voice suddenly rang in his ear, frightening Chen Shang to the point that he could not help but scream in fear. Chen Shang hadn't expected that there would actually be someone in this huge stone room. But no matter where he looked, he could not find anyone, which gave him the creeps. Qinwu Mainland, Extreme Martial Sect Disciple. Chen Shang slightly took a breath before replying. Worthy of the sect created by Extreme Martial Old Man. His sect's disciple is actually the first one to arrive here. So to say, the Extreme Martial Sect is still surviving after 100,000 years, amazing. The voice was filled with admiration. Chen Shang secretly chuckled to himself. Now it seemed that there would be some good things inside this stone room. Senior, are you sealed here? Chen Shang asked. If he could, he would free this man. No, it's just a wisp of my spirit thought which is talking with you. I am already inside the heavenly realm. The man laughed. Chen Shang was shocked. Is he in the heavenly realm? Furthermore, he could still talk with him. He reckoned that this man's divine sense was definitely astonishing, or else it would have been impossible to separate a wisp of spirit thought and maintain it for so long, not to mention, he could still control this spirit thought from the heavenly realm. This fellow is definitely a Shinto cultivator. There is a splitting soul technique in Shinto which cannot be affected by constraints of space, making it possible to control spirit thought from another space and get the latest information directly. Even for me, it is currently impossible. It seems that this fellow after crossing the 9th Nirvana tribulation didn't immediately ascend, and remained here for some time. Long Shui was also caught by surprise. She encountered Chen Shang, a human who could cultivate in Shinto was already unexpected, now she had encountered another one. After listening to Long Shui, Chen Shang was suddenly filled with deep veneration. Senior, could it be that you are a Shinto cultivator? Oh, little brother, may I ask how strong are you now? How did you know that I am a Shinto cultivator? Even in the past, many old men didn't know what is my ability called, even I didn't know. Only after I ascended to the heavenly realm did I came to know of Shinto. The man asked in surprise. I am just a 7th level true martial realm cultivator. I have read a book that had records about Shinto, that's why I know. Chen Shang replied. So it was like that. How did you come here? Discovering the whole is not difficult, the difficult part is to realize that there is something underneath. Furthermore, when you arrived, you didn't destroy the mountain. Not to mention, by your current strength, it will be near impossible for you to destroy it. Regarding this issue, the man felt extremely uncertain. Long Shui said, tell him that you are a Shinto cultivator. This person had been exploring the cultivation of Shino on his own. Furthermore, he is currently in the heavenly realm, he is definitely not an ordinary person. It's better for you to become friends with him, you might encounter him in the heavenly realm later on. Senior, in fact, I am also a Shinto cultivator. I have just learned itsy bitsy of spiritual power, by virtue of which I turned into a mouse and crawled my way here. Chen Shang laughed and said. Ha ha ha, interesting, interesting. In the past, I had said, anyone who can come here would definitely not be some ordinary person. Who would have expected that after 100,000 years, the human who could arrive here is actually a Shinto cultivator? In the past, this place was built together by me and a group of old men. The man laughed and said. Where in the end is this place? Right, I have yet not asked Senior's good name. Chen Shang asked. My name is Wu Kanghong, little brother, what about yours? Wu Kanghong asked with a laugh. Chen Shang, Senior Wu, where am I? I only came here in order to hide. Chen Shang replied. Oh, why were you hiding? The great battle of the three realms has yet not started, right? Wu Kanghong doubtfully asked. I very much want to know, why you came here. Chen Shang possessed the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise was already known to many, he had nothing to be afraid of in telling it to Wu Kanghong. After listening, Wu Kanghong was furious as well as surprised. We have never imagined that, after us, the mortal martial world would actually become like this, so inharmonious. It's good that the leader of extreme martial sect was able to unite the various continents at the most crucial moment, otherwise, the Qinwu mainland would have been finished. Wu Kanghong furiously said. Chen Shang, in fact, you don't need to afraid. Your teacher is actually very strong, he absolutely would not have let you get hurt. The only reason that he doesn't dare to use too much of his power is because he is afraid that he will be sucked into the heavenly realm. At present, he is still safe inside the mysterious realm. Wu Kanghong continued, Since you were able to arrive here, and got my approval as well, I will give you 2 things. One is a magical equipment called Tian Luo Door 1 and the other is a map. Chen Shang was secretly elated. Although he didn't know what was good about these 2 things, he knew that these things were definitely not ordinary. Footnotes. TLN. Tian Luo, this term comes many times, so I figured I should break it to you. So it is the heaven in Taoism. I still can't understand it completely, but whoever is interested, I have found an internet page for you, you can know more about it here. Closing square bracket. Chapter 378, King's Mainland. Chapter 378, King's Mainland. Suddenly, a white beam of light appeared in the center of the stone room. When Chen Shang arrived beside it, he found 2 things suspended inside the white beam. One was a black disc that was as big as a palm, the other was a map. As Chen Shang took them in his hands, he noticed there were a lot of text on the black disc. The disc appeared to consist of many rings that were placed one after another to form a whole circle, and these rings could be rotated. This Luo Tian door is a very powerful magical equipment that would not only allow you to shuttle to another mainland, as long as you have enough strength, you could even shuttle to another world, and even enter the heavenly realm. However, that is under the premise that you have enough strength. As I see it, your current strength is just about enough for you to run around the mortal world. If you want to travel to another world, you would have to step into Nirvana realm first. Wu Kanghong's words astounded Chen Shang so much that his eyes were almost about to come out. Even in his wildest dreams, he could never imagine that such an inconspicuous thing was actually so formidable that it could allow someone to cross the world, and even shuttle to other mainlands easily. First, you need to pour a drop of blood on it so that the magical equipment recognizes you as its master. Afterward, you can turn the various rings on the Luo Tian disc. The direction, space distance, elevation, and other parameters are marked above it. After you have determined the parameters to the location where you want to shuttle and utilize the Luo Tian door, the disc will then open a portal. As long as you enter it, you will reach your destination. Chen Shang immediately gulped a mouthful of saliva. This magical equipment was truly heaven-defying. It was an extremely powerful space magical equipment, one that was very useful to him. This made him incessantly wild with joy. Not only could he easily leave the mainland, he would eventually be able to leave this world. The data of many places are already stored inside the Luo Tian door. They are all major mainlands in the mortal world. After your blood has merged with it, you can sense them. Don't worry, I have set the door to shuttle to a very safe place. After you arrive there, you will definitely be safe. Wu Kanghong said with a smile. Quickly, Chen Shang expressed his gratitude. Senior Wu, thank you for giving me such a powerful magical equipment. With this equipment, many of my future troubles will be greatly reduced. Wu Kanghong smiled and said, you don't have to thank me. In the heavenly realm, this thing isn't that useful. But in the mortal world, it is quite formidable, so I thought to look for a suitable person to pass this thing on. The other item in the light is a map that leads to a mysterious realm. A map of a mysterious realm. Chen Shang was pleased in his heart. Generally, a lot of good stuff could be found inside a mysterious realm. If he could go there, he would definitely make a big score. On the back of the map is a diagram of the formation that opens the mysterious realm. You need some people to arrange the formation and release its strength. This will allow you to open a small entrance to the mysterious realm, which should be enough to let a human to go in and out. On the front is the route map. The things stored inside the mysterious realm are extraordinary, all of them are rare martial arts books left behind by us 100,000 years ago, and some of them even have our cultivation experience recorded. However, they are all useless to you. After all, you have the all-powerful Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. This divine exercise covers and contains everything. Chen Shang nodded and said, yes, but I still want to learn other powerful martial techniques as well. The martial techniques inside the divine exercise of 4 symbols could not be used too much. Although their application slowly increased along with his strength, he still felt like it was not enough. I just have a single suggestion. Give this map to those guys above who are still holding the assembly, let them find the mysterious realm. Some of the martial techniques inside are also the inheritance passed down by their sects, ancestors. At that time, they could take their own sect's martial techniques. That would be the best. This way, their trip would not be in vain, and you can also put forth a condition to them, that they can't catch you. Wu Kanghong said. Chen Zhang's eyes lit up, that was indeed a good solution. At that time, the extreme martial sect can also get many martial techniques. Then, he could ask Jiyu Dongchen for techniques, and he was sure that he would be able to get them. Entering the mysterious realm is still a little dangerous. If you let these guys go, you just have to wait and you will still get your extreme martial sect's martial techniques. Chen Shang looked at the map, asked, Senior Wu, in the past, how many sects were there? I don't know about the other mainlands, but the Qinwu mainland had 8 major righteous sects. If I had to guess, some of the sects might have disappeared in the midway, or emerged in another way. For example, a sect disbanded for quite some time and then reappeared with another name to continue their martial arts inheritance. Of course, if they had conflicts with other sects and were destroyed, then consider them finished. According to Chen Zhang's knowledge, several of the sects on Qinwu mainland were established after the Great Battle of Three Realms, such as the Danxiang Taoyuan, Icewind Valley, True Martial Sect. These sects didn't have a long history like the Extreme Martial Sect. The mysterious realm was located on the King's mainland. Chen Shang felt that the King's mainland would definitely be marvelous. Just from its name, it was clear that it was incredibly formidable. Senior Wu, in which sea domain is the King's mainland located in the mortal world? Chen Shang asked while looking at the map. Forget which sea domain, the King's mainland is an independent existence. The citizens of the King's mainland rarely have contact with the outside world, they didn't appear even during the last Heroes' Assembly. Presumably, they didn't appear this time too, so there isn't any table for them. Wu Kanghong sighed and said. So to say, they didn't participate in the Great Battle of Three Realms. They sent many powerful people, like me, I am from the King's mainland. Wu Kanghong smiled and said. Chen Shang asked in a surprise, are the people of King's mainland strong? But of course, it was the only mainland which hasn't suffered any damage during the Great Battle of Three Realms. In regards to the martial arts inheritance, no one can compare with the King's mainland. If you have decided, I will then send you above, allowing you to make a deal with them. If they don't want to, you can think of some way to escape. Oh, that's right, you can't reveal anyone about what happened here. If they ask, you can just say it was from a senior of the King's mainland. Wu Kanghong said. Chen Shang nodded his head, I have decided. Senior Wu, will your spirit thought still remain here in the future? No, I am already a person of heavenly realm. I should not manipulate the matters of the mortal world. After you leave, this wisp of my spirit thought will also dissipate. Wu Kanghong said. Chen Shang was a little disappointed. He had thought of coming here once in a while to discuss Shinto with Wu Kanghong. But he knew there would be opportunities in the future, after all, they could still meet in the heavenly realm. Although I will not be here, you can still come here to cultivate anytime. I think this place should be the safest place in the Qinwu mainland. Wu Kanghong said with a smile, I'm going to send you above now, I reckon those guys will definitely jump from fright. Above the stone room, Jiyu Dongchen was enthusiastically speaking when suddenly he saw Chen Shang rise up from the center of the room. Jiyu Dongchen let loose a shriek of surprise, his face paled as if he had just seen a ghost. The stone tables were arranged on the square field in a way that they would form a circle. At this moment, everyone was looking at Chen Shang, who stood in the center. Their appearances were not much different than Jiyu Dongchen. Chapter 379, Inheritance. Chapter 379, Inheritance. Chen Shang had fled, and yet he was here. Was he not just seeking death? After all, he had angered a crowd of powerful experts. What made everyone puzzled was that Chen Shang was back, but he was not stupid, so definitely there must be a reason. Thereupon, Lan Hai and others quickly came over and surrounded Chen Shang. They all furiously stared at Chen Shang. They all had been ruthlessly ridiculed by Huang Jintian, especially Lan Hai, he had been even treated a stupid big pig. Chen Shang looked all calm and composed, dismissively said, Seniors, I just went to ease myself, that's all, there is no need to make a fuss. Went to ease himself. Just because he went to the bathroom, all the experts of various mainlands were anxious like ants on a hot walk, and most of them had almost suffered internal injuries from anger. However, everyone didn't believe his nonsense. Chen Shang had escaped, and now he was back, just because there was some reason. And obviously, Chen Shang suddenly disappeared and appeared. Such a trick was ingenious, which made everyone marvel again and again in their heart. Why are you like this? If I wanted to escape, I definitely can, hadn't my teacher still not acted? Chen Shang said with a smile. His indifferent appearance was making hundreds of Nirvana realm martial artists furious, but his calmness also showed his courage. Certainly, if someone had a teacher like Huang Jintian, who would not be fearless? Alright, to tell you the truth, I had originally escaped, but when I thought of getting hunted down by you day and night, I didn't feel very well. First of all, the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise was given to me by my teacher. As soon as I thought about this, I realized I don't have any obligation to teach you. And you relied on your strength, forced the extreme martial sect to hand me over to you, and forced me to give you the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. You don't have a little bit of morality and justice. Chen Shang looked at everyone with contempt. So do you think that you will come back and speak these words? We will let you go. Lan Hai coldly said. Hey, the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise is mine. I'm not going to hand it over to you. What can you do? In order to seize my martial exercise, took hundreds of Nirvana realm martial artists like you are going to collectively force me. I know, at present, I don't have any strength. I am a soft persimmon. You can crush me whenever you so wish. If I was as powerful as my teacher, I would not have just wounded you, I would have killed all of you. You hypocritical lots are violating laws of martial arts way. You are definitely going to die under the Nirvana tribulation. At this time, Chen Shang was a little angry. Lan Hai was extremely furious. The same was true for the others. But under Ji Dongshan's gaze, they endured and didn't take any action. Frankly speaking, since you came today to grab my martial exercise, no wonder you who are from the same era as my teacher are unable to ascend to heavenly realm. In this regard, my teacher is a mile ahead of you. In the first place, my teacher had the absolute strength to kill you, but he didn't and let you keep your life. At that time, with my teacher's strength, if he so wished, he could have dominated the entire mortal world, yet he didn't and even choose to imprison himself in that damn place. That was because he had seen through everything. Although he was insane, he is 100 times, no 1,000 times better than you. Now, you, not only didn't thank my teacher, you hate him as an old man. Don't forget, at that time, it was you who wanted to rob him of his martial exercise at first. It was you who was wrong. Only because you lots gathered together, courageously, believing you were right, have you acted like that. At that time, if my teacher had killed you, it would have been as just as the heaven and the earth. Chen Shang swept a glance over those Nirvana realm martial artists, looking at them without any ounce of emotion. In his heart, he was secretly proud. Lan Hai was rendered speechless. They were indeed wrong. Now, if they did the same as before, they would be following the wrong path again. They were now reflecting on what they did to determine whether or not they were truly wrong. Forget it. In any case, it was all because of my teacher that you didn't come to help Chenwu mainland. So my teacher had no choice but to discuss with Ji Dongshan and sell me over to you. Then, my teacher will save me, and finally, let me live a life of a fugitive. Chen Shang sighed and said. Alright, in the future, we are not going to ask you to hand over the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise again. We are also not going to hunt you down. From now on, I don't have any grievances with you master and apprentice. Lan Hai took a long deep breath, and loudly said. Other Nirvana realm martial artists also voiced the same opinion. They knew that this would continue forever, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. And now that they have angered Chen Shang, in the future, when Chen Shang would become stronger, he would not be soft-hearted like Huang Jintian. From their understanding of Chen Zhang's way of conduct, he was certainly not a good fruit to eat. Chen Shang smiled and said, I will also not make everyone's trip a wasted one. This is a map given to me by a senior. According to him, it leads to a place where the old men from 100,000 years ago had left their inheritances. They were afraid that the mortal world will fall, so they had stored their inheritances inside a mysterious realm. While speaking, Chen Shang took out the map and having handed it over to Lan Hai, continued, on the back of it is a secret array. You need to gather people to lay out the array to release its power, that way you will be able to open the entrance to the mysterious realm. As for the inside, according to Senior, it is a bit dangerous, so he persuaded me to not go as I am not powerful enough. Lan Hai took over the map and carefully looked. From the material of the map, he was sure that it was really 100,000 years old, and the array diagram was also very rare and ancient. If the mysterious realm truly contained the inheritance from 100,000 years ago, then they can also have a prosperous and flourishing martial arts era like back in the day. Where did you meet that senior? Lan Hai asked. Someone from 100,000 years ago who was still living was definitely marvelous. That senior is gone. After he handed me over the stuff, he ascended to the heavenly realm. While speaking, Chen Shang then described the scene when Bai Ziqian ascended to the heavenly realm, how an entrance was opened in the space, which actually made these experts truly believe that it was all true. I was originally planning to give it you today, but who knew that such things would happen? Although you cannot acquire my Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, the things you will get cannot be considered bad. Inside, maybe there are things left for you by your founding ancestors. And also it will all be your own things, you can cultivate with a peace of mind. Now, you don't need to be concerned about Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise. Chen Shang said with a smile. Their own thing was the best. Everyone burst into praises. Chen Shang had acquired this map, and rather than swallowing it alone, he had instead shared it with everyone. And when they thought of how they all wanted to find ways to make Chen Shang hand over the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, they felt ashamed. They were all many times stronger than Chen Shang, yet in this regard, they felt they were inferior to Chen Shang. Now, when looking at Chen Shang, the hatred in their eyes had already vanished, and what replaced was respect. Chen Shang in his heart was secretly taking pleasure. From the very beginning, this belonged to them, he was just handing it over, that's all. These experts, who originally could not wait to tear him into pieces, were now feeling incessantly grateful to him instead. Nothing was better than learning the martial exercises and techniques left behind by their founding fathers, this kind of inheritance made them even more excited. This is actually located in the king's mainland. For a long time, I have been looking for it, but I couldn't find it. Lan Hai said. He passed the map over to Ji Yudongshan. Ji Yudongshan smiled. No need to worry, my extreme martial sect's elder Wu is from the king's mainland. He knows how to go there, moreover, I will also take a trip to the king's mainland. To be honest, that place is the holy land of martial arts. Chen Shang looked at the bald old man. Wu Kanghong's surname was Wu, are they related? In that case, after making some preparations, we will go to the king's mainland to retrieve these things. The great battle of 3 realms is about to start, we are far too lacking compared to the people from 100,000 years ago. Lan Hai looking at the sky lightly sighed. Chapter 380, Luo Tian Door. Chapter 380 Luo Tian Door. Currently, they still could not leave for the king's mainland because a rift had appeared in the 100,000 Devil Mountains. They needed to close that rift, and only then could they leave. 100,000 years ago, our sacred light temple also must have left some inheritance, we also need to go to the king's mainland. A golden light shot over from far away as a group of people dressed in golden robe flew over. The sacred light temple's members had still not left, they had been paying attention to everything happening here from far away. They saw everything clearly, from Chen Shang suddenly fleeing to his sudden appearance. However, they had never imagined that Chen Shang would actually be such an idiot that he would hand over the map. Chen Shang was not stupid. He knew he needed a lot of time for him to step into the Nirvana realm. If he became enemies with these tycoons of other mainlands now, it would not be the slightest bit beneficial for him. It was impossible for Huang Jintian to forever remain inside the extreme martial sect and protect him. Lu Menjie, Ji Yudongshan, these tycoons would also someday leave the mortal world. He did all this in order to have a way out. He was not lacking martial exercises. Now that he had handed over the map to these tycoons, he was able to forge a good relation with them. If in the future, he became a high-level alchemist, these powerful tycoons would often be in touch with him. As long as he had good relations, even though he would not be the strongest in the mortal world, he would still be welcomed everywhere. Lan Hai looked at Chen Shang, but saw Chen Shang speak with a smile. Now, the map is not mine, I cannot take any responsibility. However, if inside the mysterious realm, there isn't any inheritance left for the sacred light temple, I think that there is no need to give it to someone who would go against their words and obligation. The sacred light temple enslaved numerous mortals in order to amass many resources, bringing harm to many people and even leading them to death. The sacred light temple's way of conduct was completely hated by other sea domains. Qin Zejin, I ask you to restrain yourself a little, if you do something too much again, I think it will become necessary to teach you how to follow the law of martial arts way before the start of Great Battle of 3 Realms. Ji Yudongshan coldly said. Humph. Qin Zejin had realized that because Chen Shang had handed over the map, the conflict between the other 3 sea domains and the extreme martial sect seemed to have been resolved. If the extreme martial sect joined hands with the experts of other 3 sea domain to deal with their many mainlands of eastern seas, he would have no choice but surrender a portion. The Sacred Light Temple had still not conquered the entire eastern seas, and yet he was about to be nipped out. Had it not for the critical moment, he, Qin Zejin, would definitely have not let it go just like that. You don't have to teach me, I also have the qualifications to go the place marked on the map. Qin Zejin said. That's a given, but after entering, you can only take your own things. If you tried to fight for others' inheritance, then don't blame me for being impolite. Lan Hai said. After the Sacred Light Temple's people came, they continued to discuss how to deal with the rift together. Chen Shang absently listened to them. In the final run, he only knew that these experts, in order to quickly leave for the king's mainland and acquire the martial arts rare books, had decided to jointly lay down a seal to block the rift, then join forces to extinguish all those small evil demons that had arrived here. After the meeting, Ji Yu Dongchen, with the crowd of experts, left for the extreme martial sect and held a banquet. But Chen Shang didn't have spare time to participate. He chatted for a while with Shui Shenxian and Leng Yulin before returning to the extreme Dan King courtyard. Although many things had occurred during the heroes' assembly, in the end, it all ended very peacefully. Furthermore, everyone had come to an agreement that they would fight alongside the extreme martial sect against the invading demons and devils. In the extreme Dan King courtyard, Chen Shang hid in the private room and took out the Luo Tian door. Although it was a disc, it could open a space entrance, that's why it was named as Luo Tian door. After putting a drop of his blood and getting recognized as its master, when Chen Shang poured his divine sense into the disc, he was immediately able to read a lot of detailed contents stored inside. Moreover, he also saw a map which was very big and had various mainlands of the mortal world marked on it. On each mainland, there were several safe footholds that were available for Chen Shang to choose. Chen Shang found a fair share of markers on the Chenwu mainland, the closest was in a forest near the Hero's Mountain. As long as he went there, he could open a gateway to various continents in accordance with the recorded data in Luo Tian door. The Luo Tian door was so formidable, and yet even Su Meiyao and Bai Yuyu had never heard of it. Chen Xian had to use it very prudently, if he did not want to let others know about it. And naturally, he would not go and tell everyone that he had such a thing. At night, the extreme martial sect was hustling and bustling, it was very lively. At the banquet, everyone was drinking to their heart's content as the sounds of their merry laughter resounded in the extreme martial sect. And as far as the powerful experts were concerned, they were truly in a good mood. Although they didn't acquire the Tai Chi subduing dragon exercise, they got the map which marked the location of ancient inheritances. Yet Chen Shang was nowhere to be found amongst this hustle and bustle. Chen Shang had told his friends that he was a little tired and he was going back to take a rest. After Chen Shang returned to Extreme Dan King Courtyard and got recognized as the master of Luo Tian door, he disguised himself before quietly leaving the extreme martial sect. Even if he didn't use the 72 transformations, his concealing technique was superb. Chen Shang could not hold his curiosity, he wanted to try the formidability of Luo Tian door. Whenever he thought of shuttling through various continents in the mortal world via the help of Luo Tian door, he would grow incessantly excited. Far away in a forest outside the city where it was very dark, Chen Shang sat under a tree and took out the Luo Tian door. How far do you think the seaside is from here? I want to see the sea, asked Chen Shang. He found that even after so many years, he had never seen how the sea looked like. In that case, you consider the vicinity of Lotus Island. Wait a minute, let me help you find a good place to disembark, said Long Shuiyi. She too wanted to see how formidable the Luo Tian door was. Chen Shang asked with a surprise, Smelly Dragon, how are you even going to find it? Or are you planning to go there and check yourself? Of course not. There is a high-level technique called the Wandering in the Ninth Heaven, in Shinto, which could allow my divine sense to leave far away from my body. Moreover, its speed is as fast as the speed of light. Even for me, it is very difficult to use because it consumes my divine sense very fast. Long Shuiyi said. When will I be able to use that? Chen Shang incessantly thirsted for this technique. When your divine soul is at the very least on the 10th level of the adolescence stage. Now, you are just only at the first level, you still have a long way to go. Long Shuiyi replied. The divine soul grew very slowly, which tormented Chen Shang a bit. Now, as long as he could refine many elemental spirit Dan, he could start cultivating divine soul. Found it, it's a hilltop inside a forest, it should be completely safe. Just set the disc on the grounds. As for the coordinates, I have already told you, said Long Shui. Although Chen Shang couldn't use the wandering in the ninth heaven, currently, it was all good as Long Shui could. Now, this would allow him to conveniently use the Luotian door. Ha ha ha, this father is invincible. Turning the rings on the discs, Chen Shang set the coordinates in the Luotian door. At this moment, his hands were actually shaking. Apparently, he was very excited. All right, Chen Shang shouted in excitement. As he fervently poured his true qi into the disc, a door wrapped in white brilliance slowly appeared before his eyes. Is this the Luotian door? Chen Shang observed the door with a glittering white frame that had appeared before him. At this point, he had also stopped supplying his true qi to the disc. Chapter 381, Seaside.